Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And yes, it's been a big week in gaming. I'm integot for episode 45 on Sunday, the 23rd of May, 2021. As always, I'm joined by the official P3 nominated and approved Xbox Hall of Famer and #1 challenger to the mantle of the greatest Xbox RPG player in the world, Swinny.
Hello.
And the game-loving, grind-hating, pretend-to-quit coffee-drinking gamer, anti-gamer, and slightly less interrupter-in-chief,
Joe Jives!
In this week's show, we'll be discussing, is Starfield an Xbox exclusive? TimeSplitters is back, and so is Free Radical Design, and my review of Press Reset, Ruin and Recovery in the Video Game Industry. Boys, it's been a big week in gaming, as always. So many big stories this week. As always, if you want to follow us on socials, check us out at Bigwig Pod, BIGWIGPOD. And then, yeah, also our email address is at gmail.com, using that so the spammers can't get us. No corrections this week, Swinny.
No, we're 100% last week. No corrections whatsoever.
Beautiful. Quick updates. Summer Games Fest 2021 will kick off a couple of days before E3, 10th of June, which, interesting. Did you guys check that out last year?
No, honestly, like, I heard there was news that came out of that period that they're running that stuff, but it was very, like, everywhere.
It was kind of haphazard, right?
Yeah, it didn't feel like, this is the thing that you should watch until they had the Gamescom stuff kind of not too long after that, Keighley was involved with that.
Definitely. Yeah.
That I kind of bundled that into my head as part of that, but I don't know if that technically was its own separate thing completely.
I think it was like a weird thing about being in Australia. I think for the US, it was happening in primetime slots, so you might have been on your computer at like 8, 9, whatever, and then something popped up. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll jump across. But it was always weird times for us and wasn't much notice. So I really didn't check out much. So I'm kind of glad this year it's more of a defined time, whether there's going to be material announcements. I don't know. You'd think you'd wait for E3. Right, if it's 2 days later, if you had some juicy announcement, surely. Well, I guess we'll see soon.
I'd tease something, and then I'd release it at E3.
Oh, okay. A slight teaser for E3. I'm sure Keighley would love that. And then the next update Mike would be happy about is No Man's Sky will be the first VR title to support NVIDIA's DLSS. That's, the AI technique for upscaling.
Which I'm a huge fan of.
For VR, which that's kind of sick, man. That's kind of sick.
Well, from what I read, it's one of the first. There's some other VR experiences, but that's the big one, obviously.
So I'll jump into what I've been playing this week because it is related to DLSS, actually. Mm-hmm. So, I'd ping you guys during the week and say you wouldn't guess what I'm playing.
And
I have a stab.
We didn't guess. I tried.
I've just given you a hint.
So related to DLSS. Jeez, I don't know.
The Witcher 3?
That doesn't have DLSS, you idiot.
I think it does.
I thought I'd heard that it does.
No, it will with the next gen update, I believe.
I tried Cyberpunk. It wasn't Cyberpunk.
Call me idiot for that, you asshole.
Well, I've got to correct you. We were on a good no corrections run. I have been playing Control.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Oh, you idiot.
Yeah.
Now, I actually can't...
I thought you finished it, you idiot.
I can't recall. Have you guys played Control?
Yes,
you idiot. We did. We
impressions
exactly.
on it.
Oh my god.
Impressions, or did you finish it?
No, I didn't finish the game.
Oh man,
I didn't finish it either.
I'm enamored with this game. Huh. I love this game, man.
I thought you finished it a while back.
No, Control.
Yeah.
No, you're probably thinking of Alan Wake.
No. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know you finished that one. Okay.
Yeah, no.
I've been get back into that as well.
I've been like wanting to play this game, and then I bought it, and then it went free on Xbox and on PlayStation
that's
Plus.
right. You were so bitter and disappointed that you didn't want to continue playing it. I remember that. Yeah.
I'm actually no. I didn't start it back then. I didn't even start it.
Okay.
I only ever tried it on Switch streaming from the States, just to test if it worked.
Okay, I thought you played.
And it barely did.
Damn.
And then it booted me off for the connection. Man, I'm loving this game. And the DLSS in this game is awesome. It's crazy.
Yeah, like, it actually, I've seen things about it, and it looks better than the native resolution.
I don't think that's true.
No, there were certain elements that were being rendered better. It was really weird. Look it up. Yeah. I was surprised.
That can only be true if what you're saying is, at the same frame rate, like the DLSS version looks better because you can do more with it. You can put more volumetric effects and ray tracing effects and stuff like that, which is what I did.
Yeah.
I had a version of it running without DLSS and then one with, and I was able to amp up all the ray tracing effects. It looks insane with the ray tracing effects on. I'm surprised you guys don't like that game. I really love that game.
What do you mean I didn't?
I like it, yeah.
You clearly don't remember what I said about the game.
Why'd you put it down? Why'd you put it down?
Because there's games sometimes where you have to be in a certain zone for it. And I got pretty, quite a few hours into it, and
it's not very long.
I like the game, but from a gameplay standpoint, to me, it's a little mediocre. But the actual the atmosphere and the story and everything's great.
And the gameplay is really good. I found personally.
Yeah, I found the gameplay awesome.
Very solid shooter.
Yeah, very very cool mechanics. Very solid shooter. I don't want to spoil it for everyone, but man, I think I really love this game.
That means I think I got further than probably even you. So I've got keycard level 5.
Oh, you're way ahead of me.
Oh, okay, cool.
You're dude, it's not that long of a game.
It could be
you might be
Speaking of Joe Jives, another shout out to our friend Joe Jives. We played Resident Evil 1, I think it was, way back in the day, as it would have been on PlayStation 1. And we smashed it in the course of a day and a bit, I think it was. And then we had to stop because I had to go home.
As it's meant to be played.
And then I had to go home, and we never finished that game. Anyway, fast forward 15 years later or something. I'm playing it on whatever other new version of it exists. And I got to the same part that we were at. I'm like, oh my God, it's the same part. Finally, I can continue the game. Literally, the game finished a minute and a half later.
How does that happen?
We were right at the end of the freaking game.
Does that happen?
Maybe a minute and a half is exaggerating it slightly, but we're literally right at the end of the game. At the very, very, very end of the game.
Wow.
Is where we stopped, yeah. We had no idea because we never looked it up.
What have you been playing this week, Mike?
What have I been playing? I've been playing a lot of Luigi's Mansion.
Cool.
Yeah, because I gave it to my
beautiful looking
really
game, right?
beautiful looking game. Yeah. Very cool gameplay. I never realized that sucking is so good. I wish I did as much vacuuming around my actual house that I did do in that game. It's just it's so satisfying. It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
So it's a fantastic game. I actually got it for my girlfriend. She got into it and she kept raving on about it. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a crack as well. So I started playing it too. And then we also played co-op, which was really, really fun. And I don't know, the bosses are so cool in that game. Trying to figure out what to do, and then you finally figure it out, and just the gameplay's fantastic. It's a really, really brilliant, one of my favorite Switch games that I've probably ever played easily.
There's a list of Switch games where I'm like, when the Switch Pro comes out, I want to go back to see if it just runs a lot smoother. I feel like that game running at a buttery 60.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Swinny, I don't know if you've seen Luigi's Mansion 3, but it looks insane. It looks
really
so
beautiful.
good.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful game.
Of course I've seen it, you idiot.
Have you played it?
I said, of course I've seen it, you idiot.
But what? On a trailer? I'm talking about... Look, it's different when you're running it on the device.
How? You're talking to Swinny. Of course I've seen what Luigi's Mansion 3 looks like.
On a device.
What is? Come on!
It makes a difference.
I can only see it in person, real on a device.
It's not like it's just coming through a screen.
The glory of Luigi's Mansion 3.
It's not like it's coming through a screen anyway. Come on, it's the YouTube compression. You can't get the
screen.
You need it uncompressed.
It doesn't look correct on your OLED.
Mike probably doesn't remember, but when we had the whole 2-for-1 pre-order deal with EB Games stuff, I was telling him to get Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, and I think that's when I
said it as well. I said it as well
because I bought it then, the 2-for-1. I bought it as part of the 2-for-1. Yeah, and that was one of the.
It's a great game. I really like it a lot.
Really,
I think
cool,
I think weirdly underrated game.
It is.
It got some plaudits when it came out, but it's gone off the radar so hard with people.
Massively, and you know what it comes down to? I was ranting on about when I was playing Mario Odyssey and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, too many Mario games. Do something different, Nintendo. This is it. This is the thing that I didn't realize I should have played. That is completely different.
Nintendo does this with all their games.
I know. But I feel like they could do more. They could do more Yoshi games. They could do more.
They do. They make a Yoshi game every 3 years.
Which one?
Yoshi's Crafted World. Came out a year or two ago.
Okay, I gotta play that too.
I've got it.
Is it good?
I can lend it to
you.
Is it good? Are you in Sydney?
No, I'm not, but you could.
It's not bad. Look, like the problem with Yoshi, as Swinny and I know too well, Yoshi's Island is just it's you do not want that to be the first in your franchise. It is so
I
freaking
know.
good. It sets such a high watermark. It's like Chrono Trigger. It's almost like if Chrono Trigger wasn't as good, then I could imagine that being a series. But the first game's so good. Every game that comes after it, it's just like, oh, it's not as good as Chrono Trigger.
Well, that's
but
why
it could be a 9 out of 10 game.
That's why I never
you
made
know.
another video on my channel because there's no
Mike.
point. I don't
Mike
want
video.
to.
Yeah, and the other problem with Yoshi is the fact that they followed that up with Yoshi's Story, which to me is an absolutely terrible game.
Yeah.
And I was so looking forward to that.
You were
and
pumped about it.
I
This is a
was
64 game.
I was so shattered by that game that it just killed any enthusiasm I have for any Yoshi game
Damn.
past that point.
Can I correct the record? So, because I had Yoshi's Island, did you actually own it, or were you just playing my copy?
No, I always borrowed
Yeah,
your
yeah.
copy.
So because it's just part of this context of the story. Because I kind of remember it's like, you know, you were like, shit, now I can get my Yoshi game. It's like 64, and you're like, yeah, this is gonna be my copy, and it was just not great. Like some people have come around to that game, but I think it's kind of rose-colored glasses.
It looks great. It had some okay ideas, but it just played like trash.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing, right? How does the game come together? Is it cohesive in the end?
You know what doesn't
just
play
so
like
many
trash
games.
though?
Yeah,
Mass
what?
Effect.
Oh,
Have you been playing
that a
it
lot?
this week? Well, I wouldn't say a lot. I played it a little bit. I probably spent more time trying to pick my class at the start of the game.
I
than
didn't
did
even
actually
realize.
play.
See, I kind of made a mistake, and I'm too far into the game now. I didn't realize that I could have the default Shep, but like pick some of the backstory and the class and everything like that.
Oh,
That's right.
God.
What? Like, dude,
Now
I'm
you know.
playing. Okay, Swinny is such a gatekeeper. I'm gonna start attacking him for being such a gatekeeper.
I think a lot of people would have that reaction when you say
Mate, I'm
that.
just playing a blind. I'm playing a blind. So
Well,
Did you
how
not
blind are you
read
that you
when
can't
you-
see a
when
menu
you go to-
option that?
when you go to create your character, did you not see the option to like set
No,
it?
Look at
he's
this.
literally
Dude, wait,
playing
hang
it
on.
blind.
this
He
is
just
a
said
guy
it.
who doesn't even have the bloody, legendary edition telling me about how it works, right? It literally has. It goes, do you want to just play as the default Shep or the female Shep or create your own character? And
Yeah.
I've seen people who've created their own characters, and I'm like, I don't want to look like that, right?
Yeah, but when you hover above it, it still has the same look on the
No,
right.
no,
It's
but
still
I didn't
him.
even go down. I was just like,
still
I don't
the
want to create
default.
a character. I just want to play the guy who looks like Shepard. I'll
Look,
just click.
to be fair, I can kind of see how it doesn't.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
it's not the most. I don't know if I call it intuitive way of selecting your
Correct.
class. Yeah, I can see how some
Correct.
people missed it.
So I didn't even realize it was classes, like, and all that kind of stuff. And then I started playing it. I'm like, man, I've just maxed out like soldier or whatever it is. But
Already
you know,
maxed
like-
it out. How much have you played this game?
No, I'm saying, how like when I pick a team, like all of my attributes are like, what are the 3 attributes? It's like biotic,
Biotics, you mean? Engineering
and
and,
then engineering, and then the other one is like melee or attack or
Weapons.
whatever. Weapons, yeah. Mine's all weapons. Right?
But you know what? Like, so first of all, weapons are a pretty core part of the game, obviously.
And
As are abilities, but you can use your teammates for a lot of that stuff, so you're not really
So-
missing out.
Can I just say, so I always tell you guys, whenever I have a character creator, I always pick like the sneaky character or like, stuff. And I never play like that. I always start playing the game and then go, I just want to shoot everyone. So the game has forced me to play how I normally like to play. So I appreciate that.
that's why it's a
BioWare.
good
Thank
game.
you. Yeah. No, I was into it and I'm super into it. And it's like I just need to play Control. There's like, I need to get back to it. I was looking forward to playing it. I went through
scratch
all
that
of the
itch.
Game of Some Other Year games. And I really just wanted to play Control all the way through.
Fair enough.
And I'm like, why am I not playing Control? Like, I just got to play this bloody game. And there's reasons why I'm playing it. So it will come clear later. But
Fair enough.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Swinny, just quickly on Mass Effect, would you say that it doesn't really matter what class you pick because you can use your squad mates with their abilities anyway to complement that, and you can manually control them, as in what abilities they
Oh.
use. So
No, I still think it's important to have a play style. Because to me, I know what you're saying that, hey, if you have Liara, you can then experience biotics by tricking her stuff.
Yeah.
If you have like Tali, you can use it.
it's not the same, but I mean, you still get to experience those things in the game. Yeah.
But I think from memory, it could be different in the Legendary Edition. I think you can tweak the classes when you go to continue on to the next game if you wanted to anyway.
Oh,
but
okay.
honestly, playing a soldier's fine. Like I've done a soldier playthrough and stuff before. Like that's fine. You know.
Yeah, I'm not
You don't
do
miss out on
multiple.
anything, honestly. Either way, you don't. If you don't do multiple, then you'll always miss out on something. But
Yeah,
you're not going to miss
correct.
out on the experience because if you focus on weapons, a core part of the game is shooting, so that benefits you. And if you're focusing on biotics, a core part of it is also biotics, so you benefit from that. So it's like just pick whatever and enjoy the game.
And I know this is sacrilegious, but man, the game can be. It feels like a super old game at times. Like I was fighting one boss, or whatever they are, and I'm like, the fight was so clunky, it was like out of control. Like I would respawn, and like the guy would be on top of me and just like kill me in like 2 seconds. I'm like, I literally could do nothing in this.
Do you remember what boss it was?
It was the one where you get Liara.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It was ridiculous. It was like, what the hell? Like,
Venezia?
So it's like a Krogan.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
Krogan,
the
yeah,
Krogan,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, it was like buggy, man. Like no joke. I respawn and then I couldn't even get into cover or anything. It just launched at me. It just whacked me. I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. The game, it's weird. Like, games are so careful about being unfair now. Like, that's a really big thing. Like, I've noticed, actually, when you think about, like, lots of modern games, like, they, you lose, it's kind of like, you're just not good enough or whatever. But this game, it's just weird.
That's obviously buggy in that sense.
It's a bit buggy.
If you can finish the games, I think both Swinny and I finished the games on Insanity, which is the hardest difficulty. If that's doable, that means, the game is fair enough in that.
But you guys are pretty
sense.
good at games, though.
No, but like it's not. There were like maybe 2 or 3 parts that you really feel like you can get stuck on that are difficult.
Okay.
But even those parts are like it's if I use the right things at the right time, it's obviously totally doable. So it's not that bad.
Mass Effect 2's Insanity is the trickiest of the 3.
Yeah, they probably had the 2 biggest parts that were a bit annoying to go through.
Okay. And then what?
But hang on, sorry, just on that one. The one thing, just really quickly on that, the one thing that I think is actually kind of cool is Insanity's a little too much, to be honest. But if you play it on a difficulty that's higher than normal, it actually gets you to play the game properly. Because I find that on normal, when I did my very first playthrough, it was too easy. Things you didn't really have to do combos, you didn't really have to mix stuff up. You didn't really care about. Number 1 doesn't. Sorry, number 2 and 3 will have combos with like synergies between abilities and stuff. I don't think number 1 does. When you can correct me on that one. But
I think they started to throw that.
But what's really cool of number 2 is I actually recommend playing it on a higher difficulty than normal because I find it gets you to play the game properly, if that makes sense, and actually use the full suite of what the game has to offer, as opposed to just breezing through it with just basic stuff.
I gotta say,
I'm a better experience.
I'm pretty meh on the combat. I'm pretty meh on it, and the Mako and everything like that.
It
But
improves
I love
in 2 and 3. Don't worry, it improves.
I love the lore. Like it's one of those rare games, and I'm a skipper. I'm a dialogue skipper.
You are, but this
which is like sacrilegious to Swinny. But
speaking of Swinny.
Oh, not for every game. Not for every.
I almost skip everything. I skip Dark Souls.
Really?
Dialogue, everything. Yeah,
man, that's like the coolest, most interesting dialogue that makes no sense, but is awesome.
Yeah, it is. I didn't skip all of it, but yeah, this game, I'm like reading everything. I'm going nuts. Like anything I pick up, I'm like read the whole thing.
It's weird.
I'm almost like writing down the races and just like understanding the lineage and stuff. It's really cool.
It's very.
I don't
good
know.
Very
I
cool.
love sci-fi. I don't know why, but I love well-written sci-fi where there's like some depth to the backstory and the motivations and the politics and everything. It's very, very cool. I'm really into that.
I was the same with Swinny. We're probably the same, I'm assuming, as well, where every single entry into your codex I would listen to. And that dude has a really cool voice as well. The narrator of the codexes.
Yeah,
really
so I'm
cool.
pretty hyped. I'm now hyped up like about a follow-on. But we won't go to Andromeda. I don't think I ever play that game.
Yeah, go on to 2 and 3.
That game is worth playing.
I'm not going to play it. I don't have enough time.
Well, you still got to go through to number 2 and number 3.
Correct. That's going to take that's a multi-year
while,
project.
yeah.
That's a multi-year
Swinny,
project.
what have you been playing?
So this week I've played only a few things. So 2 of them I'll be talking about. No, literally. The 2 of them I'll be talking about later. So one I'll be giving some impressions of the new Scarlet Nexus demo, which is a new action RPG from Bandai Namco. It's coming out in June. We'll be talking about Cruel World together as part of as I guess recanting our experiences and how we acted. But the only other game I've been playing this week is a little game by the name of Cyberpunk.
Yes, you caved. You said you were going to wait until the next gen update, and you caved.
We talked about this last week.
I know. I just want to, every now and then viewers drop in and out, so I just want to make sure that everyone's clear.
I did not say you have a way of like misremembering things.
No,
I wasn't sure when I was going to pick it up. I wasn't sure when I was going to pick it up. Anyway,
no, it's about creating a narrative. I just say things, and then if you don't correct, it becomes the reality. It's just like you're in the Xbox Hall of Fame.
You should have been a politician.
Yeah. You live in that reality. I live in the real world. So I'm still very early on. I'm probably about 10 hours in. And I'm still early in Act 2, if anyone knows the kind of structure of that game. Because what I'm basically doing is I'm just doing a lot of the side content as much as I can before progressing the main quests for various reasons. But I kind of want to really get myself in a position where I've really clicked with the RPG mechanics and the systems and the combat and everything before really getting into a lot of the main quests. Because honestly, that stuff is still a work in progress for me. Like the combat in Cyberpunk hasn't clicked yet for me. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I'm still trying to figure out. Like I definitely play stealthy in this game, like I do in most games. But when I hit combat encounters, I feel like I'm kind of just flailing around, and I don't really have a build and things like that. So I'm still finding my feet there, and that's why I just want to, get, more experience, literally, so I can perk up my character and put skill points. And honestly, I think the game does a very poor job of onboarding that side of the game. Like they do a pretty good job of onboarding a lot about the game world and a lot of the systems in the game, but when you actually look at the RPG stuff, so the attributes, and then how all that stuff works, and the perk systems, unless I miss something, it doesn't really introduce a lot of that stuff to you. Now, a lot of it's fairly straightforward. I'm not saying it's not, but it's surprising for a game of this scale and with this high amount of hype that they don't hold your hand at all.
No, I know what you mean. Like even with the perks, you get the perks that are for the 6 different core attributes that you can put things into, and then you have skills within that. Yeah. But it doesn't even tell you that you can't level up a certain skill, or you can't level up your level for that particular attribute up more than whatever the max is. I know it sounds obvious, but I'm like, hey, I'm not getting any more experience for stealth takedowns or something. What's going on? And then you realize, it's because I've reached the cap of that particular level. And it doesn't really. Yeah. I know it sounds obvious. Once you look at it, you're like, oh, I get that, but it's not explained anywhere that I recall.
And can I just add to Swinny? So, Swinny, to qualify your opinion in a positive way. You're on your way this year to complete 250 RPGs. So I think if anyone knows a bit about RPGs and how they onboard people and, the mechanics of it, that's pretty damning in my view. Like a noob like me, if I jump onto Cyberpunk, I'm probably just going to bounce off it.
Yeah, the thing is that at least the early missions I've played so far, a lot of it hasn't mattered that much. So I'm hoping that's not going to be the case when you're like more than halfway through the game, because a lot of that stuff should matter. I'm in a mission, for instance, and it's like, okay, well, I can go this way to get to where I need to go, or I can break down this door because I've got a certain amount of technical skill or strength or whatever. I can't remember the exact body attribute, I think it's called. So that stuff does matter, and I think that stuff's going to become more and more. Now, for these early missions, obviously, they don't want to make it so there's too many barriers in front of people. But I agree the fact that, for a game that was going to have a lot of eyes on, a lot of people picking this up, it does seem like they did a poor job onboarding any of that stuff. But look, overall, basically there's a big mission. Obviously, I'm not going to talk spoilers. There's a big mission that leads you through in the first act of the game that, to me, is like an all-time classic mission. It was one of the coolest experiences I've had in an RPG. The world, the storyline, it's enthralling to me. I actually really, really love it. And I've been doing, as I said, I've been doing a lot of that side content, and a lot of those side characters are really, really cool and interesting. And the one thing, like, I generally like the dialogue and the writing. It's obviously, it's cyberpunk, so you know what to expect. It's kind of very over the top and tongue in cheek sometimes, but I'm not really feeling. I'm playing as the female V,
Of course.
or I guess, and I'm not really feeling the voice acting from V. Like, I don't know if it's the performance itself or just how they've scripted it. But there's times when I've been in a conversation, and usually there's like a main option in the conversation that will continue the story forward or the dialogue forward, and then there's like optional stuff you can ask. And it feels like sometimes I'll choose that stuff in a certain order, and it feels like your character's tone is all over the place. Like you'll ask something, and you're like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah," and then you select another option, and you're like, "Get to the point, bastard," or something. It's like
as if it's like rushed.
To me, like, you look at LucasArts games where you can choose any option in their dialogue, and it will kind of it will feel natural. The flow. This feels unnatural. It feels like things are meant to be selected in a certain order, which it goes against the whole point of being able to select dialogue options. But yeah, look, overall, I'm loving it. There's some things I think I love the amount of fast travel points that they put out there. It makes things get
they're everywhere. It's awesome.
Easy. And in terms of other stuff, like I guess from a performance standpoint, I'm playing this on Xbox Series X. I've had no major issues so far. It runs pretty well. Outside of, I've had some buggy animations from like pedestrian NPCs and a lot of that stuff. Like there's a lot of jank around just the general world stuff. Like, I don't know, Mike, I don't know if it's me, but not half the time, but you'll be looting an area, and sometimes there's an item you just can't pick up.
Yeah, it's happened to me randomly, and I don't know if they fixed it, but it used to happen with any mech or any non-human thing. You could never loot the corpses. So
it's not just the enemies. Like, there'll be just something in the ground that looks like it was placed there, and you just sometimes can't pick it up unless you like get a certain angle. It's just
like when you're a completionist and you need to just pick up everything.
Well, it's also like, so while I haven't had any issues in terms of like major bugs or anything, it does feel like sometimes that the world is like taped together with duct tape. It's like, it does feel like at some point something could go wrong. So that's the jury's still out on that stuff, because all it takes is one mission critical thing to go wrong, or for me to just be like pissed off at that side of the game. But overall, I'm having fun.
That's awesome.
So.
I gotta say, I'm very happy I've waited for this game. Like, I just genuinely think I'm gonna wait until the next gen version comes out, and then even after that, and it starts to come down in price and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. A lot of hype on that game has just really died away fast. Like, I hear no one talking about this game anymore. So, yeah. It'd be interesting when they release it on the next gen.
You just heard me talk about it.
I know, almost as long.
Am I nobody to you?
We could have had an impression. It was so long. It'd be interesting to see if you stick with it and finish it.
Of course,
because I've heard. Well, no, I mean just like for now, or you just get a pause and come back to it later type of thing. But yeah, because I just hear mixed feelings about when people finish the game, so I'm just really keen to hear what you think about that. All right, well, let's jump into the news, boys. Is Starfield an Xbox exclusive?
Are you clickbaiting people?
It's not clickbait. So, crushing the hopes of PlayStation Bethesda fans, Jeff Grubb, reporter for VentureBeat, and runs his mouth a lot on his streams as well, has now reported, so it's not as an opinion, but it's reported, that Starfield will be an Xbox and PC exclusive only. So the game revealed officially on the E3 2018, didn't have a platform at the time or even a release window. All we understood was that it's going to release before Elder Scrolls 6. And then, from that period of time, there's been kind of just little snippets of information, including Phil Spencer at the Bethesda Roundtable, just kind of reiterating their view on exclusives and that they want to deliver great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. Subsequent to this, Jason Schreier from Bloomberg has confirmed from his perspective, and again, I take this as reporting rather than opinion, that it will be shown at the Microsoft/Bethesda, but you'd think it's just the Microsoft E3 presentation, and release date will be teased, but very unlikely is 2021. It looks like it's late 2022. I actually did go back, boys,
and bake in the oven.
Checked our predictions for this year and just like what games we were hyped about, and we did actually mention. I think none of us thought that Starfield was going to come out this year, so we're on the money.
That's
Swinny,
cool. That's cool.
As the RPG nutcase of the crew, are you sad that this is an Xbox exclusive? As your icon is an Xbox Series X.
I'll restate what I've stated whenever we've talked about Bethesda and Microsoft. I'm sad that there will be less people that can be able to play the games that they want to play.
Yeah, same.
So yes, I am.
But
But I'm not surprised.
yeah, so I still feel like there's a chance that they'll make them ultra timed exclusives. So release them
By
2
ultra,
to 3
I mean,
years.
Yeah, all right. So longer
After?
time frame. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
At that point, are you still selling the console with that? And do people... Because, I mean, the whole point of having it as an exclusive is to sell Game Pass and it's to sell Xbox, right? To get people drawn into that. But after 3-4 years of a game, like, surely by that stage, you're like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and not get a console, or I'd rather wait another 3-4 years to play a game. Like, most people will probably just... You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, and I hate saying this, and I can't remember everything I've said on it, but I probably have to admit I'm wrong. Like, so even when I said it, I was like,
what?
Choking. I'm wrong. They are going down that Netflix route, which is, Netflix originals just never come out on anything else, even if Netflix isn't a big presence in that place, in that country. And you look at Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, stuff like that. They just draw people into Game Pass. So, obviously the argument will be get Game Pass on your console and then, you can have Starfield, right? That's one way to do it. So, and we're going to go into it later. I'm going to do like a follow-up on the Apple versus Epic. But there was some court documents that came out which were heavily redacted, but they were redacted in a really weird way where it was obvious that they were talking about Microsoft and Nintendo in commercial negotiations. And then you look at it and you think, well, what are they going to negotiate about outside of Game Pass? Like, there surely wouldn't be anything. So, yeah, that would be a really interesting E3 announcement if Game Pass is coming to the Switch. But yeah, it looks like they are shutting up ship, Swinny, and your beloved Xbox might be having a go back at PlayStation. It might become like 360 versus PS3 all over again.
I'd be interested to see what happens with the Indiana Jones game being made by Machine Games that's being headed up by Todd Howard. Because if you think about that property, I don't know technically who owns Indiana Jones these days. Does anyone know? Like any studios, it's film studios or anything?
I think it's Disney, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that sits, but surely
it's Disney because Indiana Jones is part of Lucasfilm.
Okay. Surely Disney wouldn't want that a new Indiana Jones to be exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah, you'd have to make it multiplayer. I mean, and we've even seen stuff that was single platform being pushed into multiplayer with MLB The Show. So I'm the same as you. I feel like that was a deal that was done a while back as well. That's not a recent deal. So why would they have made a deal that says you can only go on Xbox? I think maybe that's where all the debate and confusion's coming from, like Phil Spencer's comments, because he's sort of always been saying, exclusives, but, we do need to look at it a case-by-case basis and honor contracts and stuff. So I agree. I think the Indiana Jones game is going to be on multiplat. But yeah, like Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be the big one. If they say that is Xbox only, that's going to be pretty nuts.
Just a word of advice, and I don't say this with any glee whatsoever, like no joke, like outside of the fact that, as a joke, we've got me as an Xbox, and obviously my main platform is an Xbox these days.
Only.
I think... No, I play Switch, I play PC. Just don't set yourself up for disappointment. At this point onwards, to me, the assumption is that any Bethesda game is exclusive to Xbox PC.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So just like, and if it goes the other way, then that's good news, obviously. Like, but to me, it's like, yeah, I just think to go through this like game after game, like the next Wolfenstein or the next Fallout, like I think at this point we should assume that's going to be the case.
Yeah. But it is weird though to me because I feel like Wolfenstein would be really weird to be Xbox exclusive. Whereas, some of the bigger titles, not so much. Like, I wouldn't be so shocked with Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Starfield being exclusive. Whereas Wolfenstein, I don't know, it's a bit like Doom. Like, you just feel like it would be on everything.
Yeah.
Like, but Doom being exclusive, like Doom 3, which is a weird title. But, like that being exclusive to Xbox and PC, man, that feels really weird to me.
It also feels, obviously, just from a consumer perspective, such a backward step of having those games available, or the previous versions of those games available, and then a new title comes out and people can't play it on a particular platform.
But I mean, that's an acquisition.
I know.
Yeah.
It's all about that. It just ultimately, I think, it just sucks for the consumer. Really, it sucks for people who don't want to fork out extra money for a second console that they don't really need. You know what I mean? Not everyone's in a privileged position to get both, or there's not even any stock, even if you did want to be able to get both. So,
the last thing I just wanted to say on this before we move on to the next story is just, I'm actually now interested. Is there going to be Xbox Game Pass exclusive games where a game comes out and it only is available on Game Pass?
I could see a game like a Sea of Thieves style game, possibly. But I mean, it's probably not much more work to have something on Game Pass and also as a full retail download. So I think you could potentially see some free-to-play shared world live service game or something like that.
Something small. Yeah, I guess you test that with something small and just see how people feel about it. If they get too offended by it. All right, let's move on to our next story. WB Games. So back in the news with Axios's good reporting on WB Games, but it was really the reporting around AT&T and Discovery. So AT&T had really pushed hard. So that's the Telstra equivalent in the States. Very big on telecommunication, mobiles, connections, internet connections, all that kind of stuff. They pushed into media. So they had Discovery and a whole host of other outlets. HBO is one as well. And obviously they have not been able to realize the benefits of that acquisition and merger. I think it was about 3 years ago from memory. And
with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, with Warner Brothers, exactly. So they are now breaking it up, and they're breaking it up in a really weird way. So this is essentially like a joint venture that they're doing with Discovery, and although they will own the majority of it, AT&T, they are giving the power to it to Discovery. So it's like a really unique one where it's almost like we don't know, we have no taste. It's almost what they're saying. We don't know how to create shows or drive things like that and create, capital out of that, but we have a lot of money and control. So we'll give you you be the taste maker, Discovery. We'll get the benefits of it. It's like genuinely a little bit like that is what's happening now. And honestly, I've been following it and there's a lot of news stories about it. The thing is, we see it with Microsoft, right? Xbox is such a small component of Microsoft. They don't really even legally need to disclose that much about the Xbox business, because it's such a small piece of the pie for Microsoft, right?
Just crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, whereas PlayStation, because it's such a big part of Sony, they need to actually go deeper in their financials for investors and for like the market purposes. So to the point where they're actually saying, this is how much we're making in these divisions and all this other kind of stuff, right? And there's a bit of a parallel here where they barely even mention that they own video game studios that make some of the best games going around. It's almost like an afterthought. It's like, whatever. We own some other assets. I think it was literally just included in other Warner Brothers Interactive.
So those studios.
Yes.
Can we maybe explain some?
Yeah.
Of them?
So Rocksteady, so the Arkham series, NetherRealm, Mortal Kombat, Monolith, Shadow of Mordor, and then the Lego Star Wars and Avalanche with Hogwarts, which is already in trouble as it is. And there is actually mixed reporting about this, Swinny. So I was reading like so much about it. Some are now saying all of the game studios will be going across to Discovery, and then others are saying it'll be broken up a bit. I think, normally what happens with these type of JVs, joint ventures, they'll they'll pick apart parts of it, and it's also like they signal to the market. And then if you're, for whatever reason, if you were saying this before, Swinny, if you're PlayStation and maybe you want a first party fighting game, do you pick up the phone and go, hey, can we buy NetherRealm and make Mortal Kombat an exclusive to PlayStation?
Well, this is interesting to me because back on our very first episode, the episode with about 50 different segments.
Yeah, that was awesome.
We actually talked about the fact that Microsoft were interested in potentially buying WGP games at the time. Now, that could be completely all out the window now, but to me, if I was Microsoft and if they were looking to potentially pick apart this group of studios, that I'd be looking at NetherRealm. That would be like the number one out of that for me if I was Microsoft.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, they need to push harder into the fighting game space. They have almost conceded that ground to PlayStation. Like, it shocks me still that Street Fighter V isn't available on Xbox. Like, that's not a game historically in my mind, Street Fighter, as being a single platform type of game. I know this is not related, but playing Control and loving Alan Wake, man, Microsoft should just buy Remedy, man. Like, what the hell are they doing? Like, they could just spit out 10 out of 10 games, and they need that kind of stuff.
Interestingly, I think it was either last week or this week, did Tencent just get a very small stake in Remedy?
Yeah,
it's like a 1.5% or something.
I think they're doing that of every studio, right?
Yeah.
It's really
putting in the Chinese firewall into their games. But so I do get nervous about this because we'll touch base on it later when I talk about Press Reset, the Jason Schreier book, which is all about studios making great games, but having a lot of turmoil behind the scenes and at the executive level and the money level. We've already seen that Rocksteady, there's been some delays in some of the games that we're all looking forward to. It's a tough one, man. It feels like there's a bit of a cloud over all of these games, apart from what's going on with Mortal Kombat. I mean, that's roaring back into the charts due to the movie that got released. Like, Mortal Kombat 10 was back in the top 10 PlayStation 4 games the other week. So,
well, it's also potentially going to have a bit of a boom when it hits like Evo time as well. So.
That's true. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on this. Like, I'm really keen to see if other people come in and try to pick up some of these studios. And, like Rocksteady feels like that should be a bit of a target, surely. They've just got such a history of making awesome games. But I guess if you're buying them, you'd be wanting to buy, like, the lot, right? At that stage, you're buying such a big component of it. All right, let's move into the next news story. TimeSplitters is back. Do you want to take this, Swinny?
Yeah, I'll take it. So we had this week a very surprise announcement. I don't know if there was any previous reporting leading up to this, but Deep Silver announced that they're bringing back the cult classic TimeSplitters franchise, headed up, and this is honestly probably the most surprising part of this, by a reformed Free Radical design. So for anybody that's not familiar with the TimeSplitters franchise, and I don't blame anyone because the last game in the series is probably older than a lot of our listeners, in 1999, members of the GoldenEye 007 and Perfect Dark teams in Rare, including some key people by the name of Steve Ellis and David Doak, they left Rare to form Free Radical Design. And TimeSplitters was the first game that they put out, and it was developed by 18 people. They made 3 games in the series. So the first game, TimeSplitters, came out in 2000, was on PS2. I remember there was a huge hype when that game came out because it was basically like the PS2's got its GoldenEye was the kind of the thing that people were pushing at the time. TimeSplitters 2, which went multi-platform 2 years later for PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, which is a game that I fondly love and picked that up for GameCube. And TimeSplitters Future Perfect, which came out 3 years after that also for PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. And at that point, the series went dormant. So TimeSplitters 4 was in development for about a year, around 2008, 2009, by Free Radical Design. But they couldn't find a publisher. The project was put on hold. Free Radical Design went into administration and were bought out by Crytek. And at that point, the project was, pretty essentially cancelled. And there's been a lot of small buzz here and there about when, TimeSplitters franchise or the IP has changed hands a few times since then. when we could potentially see another game in the franchise, and we're here now. So this will be the first new game in the series since that 2005 game, and the new Free Radical design will be headed up by the founders of the original.
Awesome.
So Steve Ellis, David Doak, which is fantastic. And there may be more people involved as well, but they're two of the names that I'm seeing confirmed out there. But work on the sequel is actually yet to start, so it's going to be a while away. Obviously, they just really wanted the fact that they're putting together a new studio. As soon as Free Radical Design reformed, people will be like, "Wait, what's happening?" So they need to get out there ahead of it. So there's no platforms or release date confirmed yet, but yeah, I'm super pumped about this. I love TimeSplitters 2. For anyone that's curious about what kind of game it is, I mean, obviously it's a first-person shooter, but they got really creative. It's a very tongue-in-cheek. The name itself, TimeSplitters, meant that each level they could be in a new time period and with different kinds of weapons. Like I remember in number 2, one of my favorite levels was like set in like a gangster era, Chicago, I think it was, and you had like a Tommy gun and stuff. And it was also really, really well regarded for its multiplayer, just like you'd consider based on the legacy of GoldenEye and that. And I know with TimeSplitters 2, you actually had a level creator, so you could make your own multiplayer maps. And in the GameCube era, that was really
cool,
unique. Yeah, and it's kind of a feature that has kind of died out. I know there's some, obviously on the PC, people do this stuff all the time, but in the console space, there's not that many games. Like I know the Far Cry games have done this stuff, and obviously Halo, and I think Doom, the new Doom games as well, at least the first Doom reboot. But so I hope they bring all that stuff back. This could potentially be a really, really good, a really, really cool, I guess, multiplayer experience for people as well. So yeah, really, really great news. It's one of those bright spots in the week. Like, oh man, TimeSplitters is coming back. That's great.
Well, I mean, coming back. This is, given that they're announcing this is about trying to get people in the team and get people who, like you said, I guess maybe grew up on it and are now at graduate plus age, and they're sort of like, oh my god, I could be developing TimeSplitters 4. How cool is that? So this is like 3 to 4 years away, you'd say.
Oh yeah. Like easily. But it's just great to have stuff to look forward to. I'm kind of surprised, maybe because it was talked about maybe the need for the hiring, but this would have been a fantastic E3 announcement. I don't know if Deep Silver or I think Koch Media or Koch Media or whatever they're called. I don't know if they've got any plans at E3. I haven't confirmed that, but this would have been an amazing E3 announcement to make.
So I don't know how people are taking to these teaser, like title teasers, where it's like basically, hey, this is actually 3 to 4 years away. I don't mind it personally, but
yeah, just don't get our hopes up. I mean, can you see how excited Swinny is for this? If Deep Silver screw this up, I don't know.
Yeah, but he's realistic. He knows it's 3 to 4 years away. So, well, not many other people are. Like people
3 to 4 years away if it doesn't, nothing else happens.
I'd see all these people talking about Elder Scrolls 6. It's like, oh, is that coming out this year or next year? I'm like, whoa, are you insane?
I saw a comment about Starfield and people like, why is this game taking so long? Just chuck spaceships in Fallout.
I wonder if they're going to redo the entire engine, though. As in, I don't think they're going to keep using the same engine, right? Are they?
Right, all right, we're probably
getting we've got to clarify. Are we now talking about Starfield again?
No, we're talking about TimeSplitters.
So just with TimeSplitters, I have to say, like, this game totally passed me by, but watching the footage, it's so crazy how, like Perfect Dark / GoldenEye it is.
Oh yeah,
it's so insane. It's
the very first level of TimeSplitters 2 was basically like a love letter to GoldenEye. It was set in it wasn't like the dam, but it was basically, this is the GoldenEye level. Yeah. It's the first level of the game.
That's so funny. It really does feel like almost a knockoff, but then you go, oh, it's all the team, so it's not. It's just them. So,
and look, Free Radical, they went on to make games like Haze and Second Sight, that especially Haze was not a well-received game. So it's not like everything they touched was gold, but people did love the TimeSplitters games.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get on to our next bit of news. And this is right in my hating zone, but I'm going to have a hard time defending it. So new amiibo was announced. It's the year of amiibo. I love it. So Skyward Sword has got a new beautiful amiibo. So it's Loftwing and Zelda. Very expensive amiibo. So this is like at the upper end of amiibo. It doesn't look that big. Like, and it's quite sick that I can look at an amiibo and go, yeah, I know what size that is. It's a, it looks a bit smaller than a Detective Pikachu amiibo, but about the same price. And I was really excited about this. And then people started to troll through and reading the footnotes on the page and everything like that. And people discovered that and so I ordered this, by the way. I didn't know anything about this amiibo. I saw it come up, bang, I ordered it. And I was like working that day and I was really busy actually. But in between meetings, I ordered it, bang, I got it. And then, the news starts trickling out that this amiibo has functionality that's locked to this amiibo. No other amiibo, no other Zelda amiibo even, can use this functionality. And the functionality is one of the core problems that people have with Skyward Sword, which is that there's a lot of backtracking. It's very difficult to fast travel. And this amiibo enables you to be able to go between Skyloft and different locations in the game. And the way that I understand that it works, Swinny, is that when you activate the amiibo, it's kind of like you're putting a flag in the ground. You go to Skyloft, and then you go back to where you put the flag in the ground. It's not like fast travel anywhere in the world, from what I understand, Swinny.
And the big part out of this is the fact you can do it out of dungeons.
Yes, that's anywhere pretty much. They're saying, probably not boss fights, but in dungeons even.
So what do you guys make of that?
So first I'll go and then I'll throw to Swinny, but I think this is a terrible idea, right? And this is someone who will get the amiibo. I've already ordered it. I'm going to get it, right? So it's not going to impact me personally.
Well, what do you mean terrible idea from a gameplay perspective? A terrible idea to have this physical thing that adds such a big change to the game, almost.
Yeah, it's become like physical DLC, right?
Well, it is. It's exactly physical DLC. Yeah.
And it's so bad that, normal folk are like, oh, I'm just going to go on eBay and order a NFC coin, which is like a pirated version of Amiibo. You can get ones where it's just the NFC's coded on a coin or a piece of paper or something. Look, the only other time where they've done this where it's like, I've also said this is like not right is, and this is a deep cut, but when Metroid Samus Returns came out for the 3DS, they had these awesome Metroid amiibo. They're like genuinely some of the best amiibo. I don't know if you've seen them, Swinny. Like it was a Metroid breaking out of its case.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And then Samus as well. Now, those amiibo actually unlocked the fusion difficulty in Samus Returns.
Okay.
And also like some of the suits and stuff. And it's like, dude, why did you do that? That's like core functionality to the game that's in the game, but you've locked it behind an amiibo, which by the way was really hard to get. Like I've got that one obviously, but like that one was tricky to get, and they didn't.
Humble brag.
No, but no, because I just pick them up when they come out, right? But it's so weird with Nintendo. It's like with the Metroid ones, they released only a few. Like even on the day it came out, it was sold out already.
I find that's a dick move. I think if it's cosmetic stuff, whatever, fair enough. I kind of get that. It's all good. But if it's gameplay mechanics or core parts of the game, it's getting into some really weird territory.
Yeah, and just quickly on that, so what's been happening is with some of the latest amiibo they've been releasing, they have been introducing almost like easy modes or like bonuses to the game where it makes the game easier. That's what I've been noticing, right?
Okay.
And I think what's happened is, for them, because you got to remember, Nintendo are a really different company to like a lot of Western companies. I think they just look at it and go, it's just like, an easy mode. Like, why would you want to warp back and forth? Like, that's cheating.
Yeah, you just pay for an easy mode because literally that's what you're doing. You're paying for.
And no one's been complaining about like these kind of like bonuses that you get making the game easier. Like, no one's really ever complained about it in the latest amiibos that have been coming out. But this one, I think because it's sort of like goes to a big problem that people have with this game, that, it's very hard to get around. And if you want 100% it, there's a hell of a lot of backtracking, that this just expedites the backtracking, then becoming you want to get it. And it's already sold out in a lot of places, this amiibo. like in the world. So it's just like, oh, you're blocking it, and then people can't even get it. It's like for instance, you know, like Monster Hunter Rise when it came out had amiibo. It's just like I can't remember the name for it in the game, but it's essentially like skins for your armor, but it doesn't actually add any attributes.
The cosmetic stuff, yeah.
Cosmetic, yeah. So what were you about to say, Swinny?
Yeah, Swinny?
Yeah, so look, I hate this idea.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. So I'm just getting up front. I think this is an arsehole move. But with Skyward Sword, I don't remember that being an issue because the areas are so bloody small. Like this is not like a traditional Zelda game where you got like some big world. You're going down to specific areas that are pretty damn small. They're full of stuff, but maybe outside the dungeon, like if you get an item in the dungeon, you're like, okay, or you get something like I need to go back to Skyloft to upgrade my staff or anything like that. But it's weird to me that I never saw that as an issue in this particular game. I could see it in other Zelda games where being able to fast travel anywhere, but just the size of this game to me just meant that it was never a problem. So it's weird. Maybe I'm just misremembering. It's been a long time since I played it. So
I think also like you're pretty good at games and you've got a very organized mind when it comes to games. So you've probably...
So that negates my point.
No. I'm not saying negates your point, but I'm saying that you may not have run against the issues where people have gone, I haven't picked up something or I haven't done the right thing and I have to go all the way back now because I've stuffed up, you know? Because I've heard a hell of a lot of people say that they've experienced, in their experience, right, a lot of backtracking in Skyward Sword, and that was almost like the biggest frustration they had with it. So
that's fair enough. I just wonder if will this lead to an amiibo percent speedrun category where you need the amiibo to be able to do the fast traveling.
Oh, definitely. They already do that with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
They have that with Breath of the Wild. They have like amiibo and then no amiibo, which is kind of funny for me. But yeah, you know, it's kind of annoying because I feel like this is like the biggest amiibo news that we've had, and it's like because it sucks. But the amiibo looks amazing. I mean, you guys would admit that, right? Do you think it looks good?
It's okay. I don't know the characters, so I can't comment.
You don't know Zelda?
Well, it's weird because normally I thought he dresses in green, so that's. I was really confused, but I'm assuming it's not the bird that's Zelda. Zelda's the other one.
So if you're wondering why you can't hear Mike on the podcast anymore, I've now got a button. He's not aware of this, but he's actually been deleted on the video feed as well, and he's gone. Apologies, viewers. I've got a written apology. Mike's views does not represent the views of Bigwig and Gaming podcasts. We have a 1DP policy, a one dickhead policy, which is Mike is the one dickhead on the policy.
Our intro last week, our mic-free intro was a trial.
It was an experiment, and it was well received. Viewer numbers went through the roof. Rave comments. Mike still can't hear us, but all right. Well, I'm picking up this amiibo. I like it. It looks cool. It's quite disgusting. I looked at how much I spent on this new Skyward Sword game. I'm like, whoa, what the hell?
Did you end up buying the steel box one and the Joy-Cons?
Yeah, everything.
And whoa-wee.
For one of the worst Zelda games. Wow.
Whoa-wee. Whoa, look at this. One of the worst Zelda games. Terrible take. This is an Odyssey take.
That's all right. You didn't spend $450 on a copy of a
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk.
That is not an Odyssey take. I'm just...
No. Popular opinion is, Mike, that this rivals maybe Zelda 2 as the worst Zelda of all time.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So, yeah. It's I don't know. I really liked it when I was playing it on the Wii U.
I actually did like the game. I'm just giving it crap.
I just think people hate motion, and I don't like motion either, but this doesn't have motion if you don't want it. So... I'm super
Motion
interested.
was the least of its problems, in my opinion. But that's let's talk about that when the game comes
All right, let's talk about another game that's a great game. All right. Next bit of news. My Friend Peppa Pig is announced. And
finally!
Swinny is taking over. Go
You don't understand how long we waited for this game.
Okay, so I'm just going to set the scene. You know, what stories we can cover this week? It's like, okay, this got announced. And Integot says, we got our headliner, boys, for the week. My Friend Peppa Pig was announced. I would have just ignored that article when I was doing it. But
Rubbish.
As punishment for the bad joke, we're going to cover the new My Friend Peppa Pig game.
Hey, wait, okay, because you're revealing the inner workings of Bigwig. headquarters, you didn't want to cover Starfield, but you did want to cover Peppa Pig. And I thought you were like trolling me.
No,
I genuinely
legit.
thought.
I was undecided on
No
Starfield.
joke, listeners. He had Peppa Pig in the run sheet and he didn't have Starfield. I'm like, is this guy lost the plot? Do I need to remove him as editor-in-chief?
I was with him. I was totally backing him up.
Okay, so My Friend Peppa Pig is coming Q3 2021 for PC, PS4, Switch, and Xbox One.
Nice.
So I've heard a lot of conflicting reports about this particular piece of information. So if we need to do correction next week, but I believe the game is being developed by Bandai Namco.
No, it's not.
And
You're an idiot. What are you talking about?
No, I'm not joking. Developed by Bandai Namco and published by Outright Games in the US.
No, it's not.
What do you mean? No, it's not.
What do you mean? Why is
trailer-
Bandai Namco making this?
Check it. The trailer is on the official Bandai Namco YouTube. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But they're a publisher as well.
Yes, so this is
They're
where
not developing Peppa Pig, buddy.
no, this is conflicting information because they're Outright Game. Hey, integot. Let
Go
me
on,
actually finish.
sorry.
So there are reports saying that Bandai Namco is the actual developer, but it's being published by Outright Games. I don't know why you're laughing about this. They're just they're a developer. But Outright Games are known for publishing a lot of family-friendly games like Transformers and Addams Family, and actually a game I really like called an RPG for Adventure Time called Pirates of the Enchiridion. So I'm gonna wait to see what ends up on the bloody box of this thing because it's hard to nail down exactly who the exact developer is on that. But anyway, so rather than playing as Peppa Pig yourself, players will make their own animal friend. And
That's kind of cool because it's going to be a character creator.
And exactly, and you can visit iconic locations like the snowy mountains, the forest, the beach, and Potato City.
That's the best. I love Potato City.
The potato-themed theme park.
I don't know what we're talking about.
You can ride the potato rocket. You can visit the dinosaur park. Oh man, I'm pumped.
Some of the enemies on that level are really difficult, though. I heard.
Is this an elaborate troll? And I'm like not on board with this.
No,
this is not a troll.
I want to go to Potato City,
too,
baby.
Yeah. Take me down to Potato City, where the grass is green and the pigs are pretty.
Keep going. All right, boys. All right, I've already discovered this is not made by Bandai Namco. Like, obviously, it's not made by Bandai Namco. Like, from the start, I said this is not.
Why
made
is
by
it on
Bandai
their
Namco.
official YouTube?
Yeah, but there's reports saying out there that it is. So what information
This is
have
on
you found?
the official Peppa Pig Outright Games site. It says that this is published by Outright Games Limited, and then it goes developed by Patoons Studio Limited.
Okay, thank you for finding that because there's
This
a
took
lot
me
of
2 minutes to
misinformation out
find.
there.
Well, 2 minutes is a long time on the internet world. Not everyone has 2 minutes to look for this kind of information.
So, but the main reason I wanted to cover this, My Friend Peppa Pig, right?
Yeah.
Is I'm making a challenge here.
Okay.
Yeah.
To what is now called Petunia Games, is it?
Patoons.
Patoons Games, right? Do you have the balls?
Shit.
Do you have the cojones to make
hot coffee content?
To make Peppa Pig in 3D?
Ooh.
Of course not.
But wait.
Because how do you do Peppa Pig in 3D?
Well, it'll be like Paper Mario.
No. I'm saying a
not
3D version of Peppa Pig.
No. It's like it's a 2D character in a 3D world.
No, that's not. That negates my whole challenge.
No, it's one of the worst takes. I love it.
We need to see. Yeah, we need to see what Peppa Pig looks like in 3D because how do you do the eyes? How do you do the eyes, people?
And the snout.
I guess the snout's not, but the eyes.
Oh, like it.
It's like the Peppa Pig is like. Was it what's that boss in Super Metroid?
I don't think it's that as hard as you
lava?
think it is, Swinny, to be honest.
I don't know.
But there's two eyes on the same side of their face.
Yeah, that's like all cartoon characters, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, Peppa Pig is like the iconic two-eyed face mascot.
I don't know, man. I'd probably say the Simpsons are.
How do you do? No, but
they
Simpsons,
look weird front on.
We proved a long time ago how Simpsons will work in 3D. That's what I want these guys to do. I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to mention that. Let's prove how Peppa Pig can work in 3D. Do they have the balls to do
challenge
it?
them.
Yes, that's the whole point I wanted to cover.
And I want Dark Souls combat.
That's exactly what I want. I want Potato City to be the equivalent of Anne Orlando.
Blighttown.
No, Anne Orlando.
Potato City is Blighttown, okay?
Okay, fine, Blighttown. You know what I also want? I want Sony to pick this up as an exclusive so they can combat Microsoft Starfield.
Shit,
Boy.
man.
This is going to be huge.
So that's my challenge. They're not going to do it. They don't have the balls.
Do we even have any knowledge of what the gameplay is like? Is it going to be an RPG? Is it going to be a battle royale game? What is it going to be?
Is it going to be car combat?
Maybe car combat. Peppa Pig can get in the car and blast.
All right.
Why does she blast in the game?
I think it's clear to
This is getting way off track.
I think it's clear to everyone that
right?
none of us are big Peppa Pig fans, but I do want to go to Potato City.
Oh, look, I've watched the most Peppa Pig out of all of us because of
You
my
probably have
kids.
because of your kids, yeah. Jeez.
No joke. I have literally watched episodes.
Man. Oh, and another challenge.
And you didn't want to talk about this.
Yeah,
No, of
exactly.
course I didn't.
You probably
Of course
have
I
the
didn't.
most knowledge on this.
I do. but
Can I
definitely
also
do not
want
talk
to
about this.
challenge the developers to make sure that they include whatever elements they can of ray tracing. I think it's the perfect synergy between a game that could benefit from something like RT. And let's not forget DLSS support. I did read somewhere on their website. Can you just confirm? Can you go on their website now that you have it integot and confirm that they also have DLSS support? Because I believe that's rumor on the street.
He's not going to do that.
They're including that too.
I'm just checking. So, like, even
It is,
Platoon
right?
Studio actually posted that they're making it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
believe
with
you. Once you
DLSS
found
support.
it, I believe you. That's why I've outright said there's conflicting reports about
I just like how you actually thought there's a possibility that Bandai Namco.
because there's a lot of reports out there saying that.
Yeah, but just, dude, if freaking reports were saying
Maybe.
that Nintendo are making Crash Bandicoot, would you just take it as news and gospel? Critical eye, buddy.
Who
Critical
owns,
eye.
who
Dude,
owns
you
this
want me to
developer,
spend
though?
more? You want me to spend more time
Yes.
researching Peppa Pig?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So I like how, like, I'm looking at, but this is kind of not right because this is actually published games. I was trying to pull up the list of Bandai Namco games, and I just look at the bottom. It's got like Elden Ring and stuff like that, and then Peppa Pig would be the other one right next to it. But I can't find that this
They're
developed games.
publishing it. No, but they're publishing it in some regions. So
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like Bandai Namco can make a game that isn't clicking. Let's just say like Metroid, Project M, and also.
that wasn't Bandai Namco. That's Koei Tecmo.
Oh really? Oh, I take that back. Oh, sorry. Metroid Prime 4 was taken off them recently as well. So yeah, all right. Well, geez, we spent like 20 minutes on Peppa Pig. You got your wish, Swinny.
I'm very
you bastard.
happy about it.
And let's continue. Let's continue the theme on insane show topics. Then the final piece of news is Gucci cross Roblox. And by the way, how do you guys say Roblox?
Exactly how you
Roblox,
just
yeah,
said.
exactly.
Okay, is that the correct way to say it?
I don't know.
Okay.
How else could you potentially say
don't know.
Roblox?
You just know when you get old, you say names wrong. That's part of the being shafted as you get older. Anyway, go on.
Oh, so all right. So I'll take this because I'm the only one that's insane enough to actually cover this topic. So, in one of the most bizarre marketing mashups ever, Gucci has released a digital Gucci Garden experience within Roblox. Now, I actually found out about this from a colleague at work that shared it and said, "Hey, look at this weird thing that's happened." And I'm like, Gucci in Roblox. The first thing that came to my head is, what the hell? And the second was, I got to try this. So I'll get to my impressions in a second, but the experience aims to replicate the physical Gucci Garden archetypes exhibit that they have in Florence, Italy, within Roblox itself.
That could be interesting.
And upon entering the
Just to
garden,
pause you, do you want to explain what Roblox is?
no, because I would not do it justice.
That's partly why I want you to explain it. Go explain it.
No,
explain it.
I
Come on.
do not know. All I know is I had to download a Roblox client to be able to play this for free. And once entering the digital Gucci Garden, your avatar becomes a faceless mannequin, and you explore different themed rooms, while an admittedly very cool vaporwave soundtrack plays in the background of each area. So while it is free to download and play, there are digital Gucci items that players can purchase with Robux, which is Roblox's digital currency. I was learning a lot doing this. And you can put them on your avatars, like Gucci bags and things like that. And my impression from going through this was that it was just digital hell. It was like I had entered something that shall not exist. It was like I could see this as a part of a flashback in Event Horizon or something like that. It was just psychotic.
Are we looking at your footage?
No.
Oh, okay.
I there was part of me that went to thought about recording some footage, because if you type in Gucci and Roblox in YouTube, oh my god, that opens up a whole world that look. I cannot, for the sake of me, understand Roblox.
Yes.
Are you out of touch?
Well, it's like, isn't it like Second Life, or am I missing something?
No, dude, Roblox is like rivaling like Minecraft, dude.
It is.
It's
it
so
is a
big.
It is a platform that games and various digital experiences can be built in.
But that's what I mean. I feel like it's like Minecraft had a baby with Second Life.
There are some elements where I could understand where the Second Life thing comes from, but I also never experienced Second Life.
Well, the
and I would
Gucci
never,
thing looks
ever
like
want
Second
to.
Life to me when I looked at it. I'm like, that looks like
Yeah,
they're
so-
on Second Life.
Look, the question I have out of this whole thing is,
Why?
who is this for? Who
Children,
is this for?
children.
Children, man, you got to get them young.
The
People
experience
realise that.
the experience does not feel like something made for children.
Did I just say
whatsoever.
children? You got to get them young. Sorry.
Oh my god!
I like in the
you know
B-roll.
what I mean?
I don't know if you watch this B-roll, Swinny. I'm like now watching like an ad or something, or like a movie. Oh no, it's actually in the Gucci experience.
Yes.
What the heck?
So within experiences, they have a lot of videos on the
That's so
walls of
weird.
different creatives. It's weird. It's like a marketing showcase of Gucci experiences.
But the target audience just seems so weird. I mean, look, I
It is
get it.
so
It's
weird.
really
It
weird,
is
but
so
I get
weird.
why they would do it, because it's the whole McDonald's model. You know,
Correct.
get them in when they're young, and then
Dolomites.
you get them in for life. Exactly, Dolomites. What that Combank did. It's
I
the
think
same
you're gonna
principle.
see a lot more companies start to explore Roblox.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
as
huge
an
marketing
option
opportunity.
for these digital activations.
Bloody hell!
It's
Our
wild.
kid's not
Um,
even safe from that crap nowadays. It's disgusting. It seriously
Think about the
is.
children.
No, think about the children. Stop pumping them with advertising bullshit from an early age. It's
But
ridiculous.
the thing is that it's actually, when you look at like their website, the blog articles and everything, I don't think this is targeted at children.
Of course it is, Swinny. What are you talking about? The
No,
average
I
age
don't
of a
think-
person's like 9 on Roblox.
No, that's what I'm talking about. I
you make
think
that up,
they're
or is it
actually
true?
trying to expand it out to more people to experience these experiences. Now, obviously,
Fair
children are
enough.
going to be the primary
But-
thing, but there's adults out there running Roblox channels and all this stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
probably
there are people
pedos
that...
Hey,
looking
no, no, no.
for children or something.
Yeah, okay, let's start to chill, Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's start to chill, Mike. Like,
I
let's not make
I
accusations.
know
to
everyone
people.
plays Roblox. I know
I
that.
actually don't think it's targeted at children.
Of course it is.
I don't think it is, because if you read everything, read their copy, read their creative around this whole stuff, none of it is targeted at children whatsoever. It's really strange. I just don't understand.
Well,
it.
hang on. But if you were a company trying to target children, but you didn't want people to think you were targeting children, of course you wouldn't say that you were targeting children.
Why would Gucci target children?
Because they want to
They
hook
just said
them
it
in,
because
man.
they want to hook
No,
them in
but
from an early
children don't
age,
have-
man.
No, but the point, like, I don't think this is, and that's why. That's
Of course it
confusing
is,
to me.
Swinny. I
I
don't
reckon
like.
it is.
I feel like you're gonna get offended what I'm gonna say. But I think you're being very naive. Obviously,
No.
there's rules in America. You can't target advertising at children, right? There's rules against it in America. It's very like vicious in the States, more than any other country. It's quite interesting actually. They'd be idiots, Gucci, if they were like building it and then advertising it and trying to make it like, oh, this is for kids, because they
No,
get so
I
much
don't-
attention.
I don't think it is. What I think what they've done is they wanted to create a digital experience to go alongside the physical exhibit, and they looked at Roblox as this huge platform that is
Yeah, I'll give
blowing
you
up,
that. Yeah.
and they wanted to experiment with it, because like this is very artsy and experimental. It's not just all commercial. It is very experimental. It's just very bizarre. I really don't think it is. I think it's an artistic thing that they did alongside their other exhibit.
I just
It's
think there's so
strange.
many other
It's
ways
strange.
to do that, but
I agree.
No.
I do not recommend anybody check this out. I do not recommend anybody look this up on YouTube. I do not recommend this ever exist again.
Roblox is a very weird place. I haven't visited it yet. A word that is going to be in our parlance, I think, in the next 5 years. Tim Sweeney's big on it. Is Metaverse. This idea of creating it's like Second Life, what you're saying, Mike, but just an interactive world. Fortnite's a little bit like that because people do jump into Fortnite to watch concerts. Part of the plot of Episode 9, Star Wars Episode 9, was actually delivered through Fortnite. I don't know if you knew that, Mike.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And it actually made more sense the movie.
To watch that film.
It actually made more sense the movie if you had listened to that part in Fortnite, which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Beyond belief where Star Wars has gotten to.
But hey, marketing.
Yeah, I think this whole Metaverse thing, Swinny, is going to be a huge thing. And it's going to be interesting because Fortnite and this does not appeal to me as a Metaverse. So I feel like there's a bit of a gap in the market for something to come along, which is more for old fogies like us to actually participate in this kind of Metaverse type of thing.
The Matrix.
So. Okay, I've got it. Gucci, Elden Ring.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Hey.
Elden Ring's actually a Metaverse. I'm on board.
Hold it past them, yeah. They might have Gucci backpacks or something in that game.
Gucci sword.
A Gucci sword.
It's an umbrella or something.
Made out of diamonds. An umbrella.
All right. what a run of stories. It's toys, Roblox, and Peppa Pig. All right. All right. Well, that does us for the news this week. And then we'll jump into my favorite segment of the week, the bargain bin. For the week commencing the 23rd or 4th. I can't remember what we usually go with because I think my thing's deleted.
It's gone.
So, as we do, normally start with Epic Games. I did flag last week that they were saying it's a mystery game, so it might be a big one, and it really was. So, NBA 2K21, which is the latest version of... Can I get through it, please, Swinny? NBA 2K21. So that's the latest NBA game. All right, let me go again. NBA 2K21, the latest NBA 2K game, is free this week until the 28th of May on the Epic Game Store. And they have another mystery game next week. So keep our eyes out. Hopefully it's Shadow Complex. I missed that one. They also have the Epic Mega Sale. So in the States, it's $10 voucher. Over here in down under, it's $15 dues. So you get a voucher every time you buy a game. You get another voucher. So basically infinite vouchers, really, because the only way they work. It's funny with this because this is actually coming from Epic Games themselves. So the publishers and anyone who posts games on Epic, it doesn't cost them any money. So it's they still get the full freight. And it did cause a lot of issues when Epic did this because they didn't tell anyone the first time they did this. And people were getting their games sold effectively for $5, and they weren't really happy with that because it does create a weird pricing with the general market. So you actually notice that some publishers have set their games to be a certain price point on Epic Game Store, which is above or below the triggers for this. So the game needs to be I think it's $22.99 in Australia and above. And some people have put their game as $22.95. So it doesn't qualify. So there's lots of games in pricing that I always love. Nintendo Switch. So Nintendo Switch Online has had recent additions. 5 more games, bumping us up past 100 games for free as part of your Nintendo Switch Online service, which I think, Mike, you're still on the back of my family membership from.
I am. Thank you very much.
Cave. No, we're obviously in the same family, by the way, Nintendo. Caveman Ninja, Joe and Mac on the SNES. Magical Drop 2 on the SNES. Super Baseball Simulator 1000 on the SNES. Spanky's
1.000. Thank you very much.
Okay, I got to pull you to the side, Swinny. When you correct people, you got to make sure you're correct, right? In baseball, you call it 1000. It's a term that refers to your batting average. And it's always called 1,000, even though it's 1.000, it's 1,000.
Just clarifying.
Now, I want you to apologize and say you were wrong, Swinny.
No, I'm not going to apologize because
I'm correction.
I'm speaking for the baseball fans out there.
You're speaking for the baseball fans out there.
No, I'd have to correct myself. I'm speaking for the non-baseball fans out there.
Can you correct yourself twice?
I already corrected myself before that, so no, I'm not going to correct myself 3 times. That would put a hole in the universe. So.
Okay, so yes, you were wrong, Swinny. Don't correct me when I'm not incorrect. Spanky's Quest on the SNES, which is a great game. Sounds like right up Mike's alley. And Ninja Gaga Maru-kun. You know, I'm almost like, you put this game in here, Swinny, but you've actually worked with Nintendo to put a weird name in there. Ninja Gaga Maru-kun.
Jaja Maru.
Oh, is it Jaja? Jaja.
Yeah, well, yeah, when do you ever use J as a G? Anyway, whatever.
In
it's
GIF or
taking
GIF.
way too long. It's taking way too
Digital
long.
highlights. Ori and the Will o' the Wisps is $22.50. What a bargain. 50% off until the 29th of May. PlayStation. Digital highlights. Cities Skylines is $13.75. All of these are until the 27th of May. Metal Slug Anthology is $7.50. Great deal there. And Disney Afternoon Collection, $6.25. Wish that was on the Switch. 2 quick updates. Last of Us Part 2 has gotten a 60 FPS update. So great time to play Last of Us Part 2. And keep your eyes peeled this week because there's lots of activity around PlayStation. They will be having, at least in Australia, discounted PlayStation Plus subscriptions. So normally it's about 20% off. So it works out to be about 60 Australian dollars. So if you're about to renew, hold off and then pick up a couple and then you can roll it $60 a year, which is a pretty good deal. Xbox, over to you, Swinny.
Yeah, a few Game Pass edition highlights. So we have SnowRunner and Knockout City are available now on console and PC. And the one that probably most people are happy about, Maneater, is available on PC and console Game Pass available from 25th of May.
That was a fun game. Repetitive, but fun.
It was free on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah. So also some Game Pass removal lowlights. These are all leaving the 31st of May. So we've got both Kingdom Hearts HD collections on console Game Pass. That's a bit of a sore one for me because I was midway through one of them. But
terrible.
It's just, there's so many, like, the completions on all that, it's just ridiculous. Like over 300 hours to complete them all. So that's, you're not going to be able to do that if you're starting from scratch. But we also got Assetto Corsa on console, Game Pass leaving, Surviving Mars, Void Bastards, and Broforce also leaving Game Pass.
I should call out Void Bastards as from an Australian studio. And it was mentioned in Press Reset, which is coming up very shortly, the review of that book.
Very, very well regarded game, Void Bastards.
Good team. All right, let's get into our special features. Over to you, Swinny.
Yeah, so this week I had a chance to test out Bandai Namco's new action RPG called Scarlet Nexus. So they released the demo on Xbox this week, Xbox One specifically, and they are releasing it on the PlayStation platforms next week, the demo itself. The game is coming out the 25th of June, so it's a little bit to go. And this game, they're calling this a Brainpunk RPG, which is a ridiculous term, but it's basically meaning it's the setting, the powers, the characters. It's all about like telekinesis and, like using your mind to do stuff. This game is interesting. So I've kind of avoided a lot of news about this game because it's shameful for me. It reminds me of the fact that I've yet to really delve into Code Vein, and I know Mike feels the pain on that one. And this game, when you're looking at it, is very like, it looks like Code Vein in a lot of ways, but honestly, it doesn't play anything like Code Vein. So Code Vein is more like an anime Dark Souls style thing. This is very much just a full-on, just regular action RPG, and honestly, I really, really enjoyed it. So the demo, what it gives you a combat tutorial, and it gives you then after you finish the tutorial, you can skip tutorial if you want, but trust me, don't skip it. You'll learn a lot about it. You can choose between the two protagonists, Yuito, who uses the sword, and Kasane, who uses like floating daggers. And depending on which one you choose, then you get separate parties for the demo, which is one mission. I don't know if the mission itself is different because I only played through with Kasane. And this, so talking about the fact that this is an action RPG, it's got a big focus on combat. Like, this game is all about the combat, and it's pretty wild. There's a lot going on. The mission itself was fairly linear, so you just run around pretty small maps, taking out enemies, collecting items, and then you face a boss and some kind of mini bosses on the way. The structure of the game reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy Type 0 in some ways, like when you go on missions and that. And I'm not a fan of that game, But the moment-to-moment gameplay in that game was pretty okay. But this game, the gameplay is really solid. So but if anyone has played Final Fantasy Type 0, when you go into those missions with pretty small maps, with not a lot of alternate paths, or at least during the mission, I should say, during the demo, that gives you an idea. But yeah, combat. This is probably.
Can I just ask, because when you said Final Fantasy Type 0, and I'm like, yes, I've heard of that game before, and I was like googling it. How did you play this game? This is on PSP.
Type 0 got a HD remake on PS3 and Xbox 360.
Oh,
sorry, no, Xbox One. And PS4,
they should have listed that on the Wikipedia page. It's not even listed. Interesting.
Yeah. So, with the combat, this is where I've probably got the most to say, because that's what the demo is. It's really just showing you the combat. It's very fast paced, and it involves like chaining regular attacks with telekinesis attacks, like picking up items in the environment. Kind of think Control a little way. It's very much okay. You'll see icons on all the different there's a huge crate over there, or there's like a dump truck on the highway up there. You can chain your attacks and charge up and throw things at enemies. It's actually really, really cool, but there's so much going on. Like, you hold RB and then you can access abilities from all your team members, and those abilities are like buffing yourself with electric attacks, turning invisible so you can get sneak attacks, slowing down time. Apparently using these moves will also build up relationship with those team members, but the demo you don't really see a lot of that stuff. But there's a lot of timing-based attacks as well. Like, prompts will come up and you'll do finishes. There's so much going on that it's kind of definitely hard to describe, but also hard to just know what's going on when you're playing for the first time. And you can enter some kind of overdrive mode as well that I only went into once during the demo, so I didn't get a good experience of that. But probably the coolest moment was during the boss encounter. I had to lift, essentially lift the giant dump truck off a highway, smash it on the boss, which looked really cool. And then it subdued it and I could take it out. So really, really cool. I really recommend giving the demo a try for the combat alone. I think it's really neat. From a presentation standpoint, the character models look pretty crisp, but the environment of the demo, at least, was pretty flat, pretty boring. Didn't look great. So hopefully they spice it up a bit more. But yeah, overall, I think it's really fun. I'm looking forward to trying it out. I have no idea about the story. It's very anime in both good and bad ways. So it's but it's kind of like, for anyone, it's almost like the most Devil May Cry I've gotten from an action RPG in a long time. That level of combat. So
yeah, it's kind of got that Nier Automata vibe to it. I mean, just from the trailer, I don't know how it actually plays.
Yeah, that game can get a little hectic, but because you've got all different party members going at the same time in this as well, it's even more so. Yeah, it's worth a try.
And what platforms is it on?
So it's on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and the new Xbox platforms. And PC, I should say, as well. So pretty much everything except Switch.
I have to say, just on the Xbox, I actually was going through all my Xbox 360 collection. I'm like, maybe I should get a Series X, because you can just play all these games on it.
Yeah, you got to remember, not all the games are backwards compatible, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not every 360 game is backwards compatible.
Really? So I need to go through and check each one.
Yeah, there's easy lists out there, but yeah, definitely not full compatibility. There wasn't with the Xbox One. It's basically anything that was playable on Xbox One is playable on Series X, but not every game was backwards compatible.
Yeah, because I'd also heard that they're not looking to update or include any further games. It's kind of like they're pretty much done on that.
Well, I don't know if that was a recent comment, because when they announced that, it was to focus on the Xbox Series X backwards compatibility stuff. So some people are hoping that at some point when they've got that stuff locked down, they may start to do it. But honestly, there's some games, like just LA Noire the other week, that's an example of a game that isn't backwards compatible. So. Oh,
wow. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay. I guess I just have to dust off the 360 then and get that rolling. All right, cool. All right, well, let's get into our next feature. And it is my review of Press Reset. So the new Jason Schreier book. So I reckon you guys are going to sit back for a second, because I got to get through my essay, my video essay. So first off, just a bit of background about this book. So Jason Schreier, formerly writer at Kotaku, now at Bloomberg. I would regard as the best video game writer out there by probably a country mile. Even with that, though...
Dude, you got to get a room, you two. It's by this stage. Every episode, you got to think for Jason, I think.
That's correct, Mike. And if you didn't see, I want to go on a bit of a monologue here. as Swinny's gone away as well. Jesus. So where was I? I gotta get into my thoughts here. So very much very preeminent writer in the video game industry, but at least from my perspective, and I'm probably like a centrist politically, he's fairly left wing, and has a lot of political views, very big on unionization, very sort of anti-capitalism in a lot of commentary that he's had in interviews and things like that. And I think it's quite important to set that context, because I do think it colors the entire book. And so in terms of the book itself, its central thesis really, delves into this idea of, video games, as a medium can create this amazing interactive art and have insanely, impressive commercial hits, but the studios that create the games don't seem stable. And even where you have examples of very well supported studios or very extremely well regarded games and very well sold games, the actual people that are creating these games have no stability in their lives. And it's a sort of, a dynamic that is very unfair. And it's quite heavy-handed, the book, in the way that it describes it, but really, like, the whole idea of the book is press reset. He sort of, and he closes the book with this, is, they need to reset the industry, the way that the dynamics and the norms of the industry, they need to fundamentally change. And I'll go into that later and what I probably think about that as well. In terms of the book itself, I just want to make sure that, like, we capture this. So if anyone's keen on this book, so through the chapters, so there's really 8 chapters. There's one chapter 9, which is, around unions, outsourcing, remote work, an epilogue, which covers Telltale Games, which obviously was written quite recently, the way it was written. And he covers COVID-19 in the unions chapter, which is chapter 9, but that's not really specifically about studios games. So I'll probably park those ones. So chapters 1 through 8. So chapter 1, very much about Warren Spector, Epic Mickey 1 and 2, System Shock, and Deus Ex. So I definitely think you guys would be keen on that one. Chapter 2, Irrational Games, Ken Levine and Bioshock Infinite. Chapter 3, game that I've never heard of, Drake Hollow, and then The Flame and the Flood. So they're ex-Irrational devs, and then the interactions with Google Stadia, which was quite interesting. Chapter 4, 2K Marin and 2K Australia. So that's Bioshock 2 and The Bureau, XCOM Declassified. Chapter 5, Visceral Games, Dead Space Trilogy, and then Ragtag, this Star Wars game, another Star Wars game that got cancelled. And I laugh because Jason Schreier's first book, Blood, Sweat and Pixels, actually talked about 1313, which is another Star Wars game that was cancelled. Chapter 6, which is probably the one that everyone was waiting for, is around Kurt Schilling and Rhode Island and Copernicus, which is the Amela game that never got released in the Amela universe. Chapter 7, Big Huge Games, Kingdoms of Amela, Reckoning, which is actually a game that came out. So we did a review of the remastered version, Re-Reckoning, so you can check that out on our channel. Chapter 8 and the final one around games, Mythic Entertainment, Dungeon Keeper, and then subsequently Enter the Gungeon. So just on the writing, Jason Schreier is an incredible writer, very well written. The book flows really well. It's a bit of a page turner at times. For me, if you're only going to read portions of this book, there is an excerpt around 38 Studios that's really interesting. Kurt Schilling on Bloomberg. Probably my favorite chapter, kind of unfortunately maybe, is chapter 1 around Epic Mickey and Warren Spector. And then probably chapter 2, which is Ken Levine and Bioshock Infinite. So, I guess, in a weird way, unfortunately for me, I was like, oh, wow, this book is incredible. Like, the first 2 chapters were insane. Like, how's this book going to go? And then it did trail off a little bit for me in that way. And just on that, so the book feels to me a bit claustrophobic. And as a counterpoint, feels very different compared to Blood, Sweat and Pixels, his first book. With his first book, it was really like, why is it so damn hard to make games? And it was like, that was the thesis of that book. And the exploration, Witcher 3, all these types of games. Whereas with this book, man, this book feels claustrophobic, and it feels like we're just sitting in the same topics, same studio, same people constantly. For me, you know, like I was kind of thinking, this is about a 304-page book. You know, I felt like, man, this guy talks about Warren Spector a lot, right? So I have the Kindle version of this book, and I did a search. How many times does he even mention the word Spectre? 220 times.
Maybe he's talking about Mass Effect.
So it's a 304-page book, and he mentions Spectre 220 times.
Spelled different, Mike. Just
I know.
Bioshock, he mentions Bioshock 176 times. Levine, 96 times. And just to put it in context, he says Sony and Nintendo 11 and 12 times total in the entire book.
Interesting.
So it's just like, you know, I felt that reading it, like going all the way through, you know, random things that he's talking about somehow then becomes about System Shock or Bioshock or Spectre or Levine. And I'm just like, ugh. It actually felt like a bit of a weight on the book. Like, I'd rather almost just go even deeper on Bioshock Infinite or on Epic Mickey if you're going to stay in that type of zone.
Then you can make a whole book about just that.
Yeah. And just like on the structure of the book, like, does it work? For me, it's a bit of a yes and a bit of a no. So, you know, in general, the structure of it's almost like, you know, look at this great success or this thing that happened, and then look at the fallout, and then if they can, where's the upside? Like, how is it that people have recovered from that position? And to me, it's so heavy-handed, personally, like the way it's structured. It's very, you know, very much like, oh, you know, these AAA studios are terrible to their people. They work them to the bone. The CEOs get a gazillion dollars, and then all the people are left in the wayside. And then the people who go indie, oh, it's a massive success. And it's just not really the way it works. Like, you know, even for me, just going through some of the journeys of people who have left these studios, not all of them have gone to success, and then not all of them have gone now to AAA. Like, the vast majority have stayed in AAA and are probably happy with that and that employment. So, like, kind of does it work, does it not? For me, it feels very flawed from the start, this idea of, like, it just feels like, it, you know, the author is just so anti almost capitalism and just has this view around unionization is going to solve all the problems. And, you know, I do feel like it's a little bit naive. Like, there was even a commentary in the book where it talks about his personal experience with unionization. So as a writer at Kotaku, the whole company became unionized. Now, writing, you know, on a blog, let's say, essentially, and being unionized cannot be anything close to trying to make a piece of art where you're interacting with lots of different people and it's dynamic, and something gets released and it's like released once every 3 to 4 to 5 years. And whether it's a success or not determines if you go on. It's like it just seems so bizarre to me that he's even trying to draw the link and the parallel around his own experience with unionization and something that is so far removed from what his experience with unionization is, to the point where it's like, it's very naive, honestly. Like, comparing his experiences in America and then saying, oh, this would apply in China. It's like, no, like, it's a totally different context. And that's where, like, the book to me, like, and ultimately, like, how good is this book? You know, and I'll probably go to like a video game trope to close it out is, you know, let's put it on a tier list. So I'm not saying that Jason Schreier is a bad writer. He's an incredible writer. I think the book is very flawed from my perspective. I think his first book, Blood, Sweat and Pixels, I'd put in S tier. That's an S tier book. I'd put Masters of Doom, another S tier book. It's all about id Software creating, you know, Quake and all these types of games. Where does this book sit? Because it's a tier list, you know, and you got to be like relative. Like, I'd probably give this book like a 3 out of 5, like in a traditional book sense, right? But because it's a tier list is all about being relative. And you got to go, well, you know, what other books are there out there? And because of that, I'd probably still put it in an A tier, because there's just not that many great video game books, unfortunately. And I certainly wouldn't want this book to be a dampener. And this book is selling like gangbusters. It's 3rd on the New York Times bestseller list, like for non-fiction books. Like, it's doing really, really well. But to me, it was a big disappointment, honestly. You know, I think out of recent books that have come out, Ask Iwata, is like much better book, much shorter. It's only like 100 pages long. But yeah, this book is just sort of like, it pulls these threads and it either doesn't go far into the detail enough for me, or it follows stories and it's just like, as opposed to the first book where you'd have a whole chapter and a real deep dive on Stardew Valley and the creator behind Stardew Valley. And it's just like really fascinating to live in that sort of world for a period of time. Whereas this always feels a bit broken up, that you're talking about a big game that came out and then, you know, following on for the devs and as they got sacked and everything like that and moved on. So yeah, I'd put it in A tier, but I'd probably put it at the bottom of A tier. And that's kind of where I landed on this book.
But do you recommend people read it?
So this is an interesting question. I think for people like us, 100%, because there's like lots of insights and just how people think and studios, everything like that. I think if you're a general punter, honestly, I'd skip this book and read Blood, Sweat and Pixels. If you've read that book and like Masters of Doom and you're super hungry to read books about video games, then yeah, read it. But I don't think this is a compelling book on its own. Whereas Blood, Sweat and Pixels and Masters of Doom, I'd just give it to anyone. I'd go, just read this if you're fascinated about stuff. It's interesting. It's captivating. I don't think this book's captivating. I feel like it does rely on, you know, us knowing a lot of these things. And I feel like just a general punter would be like, who the hell is this bloody Warren Spector guy that he's talking about 220 times?
But that's what I was about to say. Like, Warren Spector, Ken Levine, these are very well-known figures in the industry.
Yeah.
If you're fans of those people and their work, is it worth reading?
Oh, 100%. I think if you're fascinated about, you know, BioShock or, Warren Spector or what's going on with, you know, System Shock 3, like he covers that in this book a few times, actually.
I'm more interested in, so I don't know, when I look at topics like this that are pretty big topics to talk about, if you're talking about, you know, a particular toxic thing about an industry, you need a huge sample size as opposed to, from what I'm hearing from you, and I don't know because I haven't read the book, what seems to be a relatively small sample size of companies and people that have gone through that process. Am I understanding that correctly?
You can't spread yourself too thin, though.
You can't spread yourself too thin, but it's like if you're talking about a topic like this that's supposed to be this huge issue with the industry, I think you need more than 3 or 4 examples, big examples of a thing. Companies go under all the time. I've worked for projects that I've, you know, put in a year's worth of effort or even a couple of years worth of effort that have gone absolutely nowhere. I got absolutely no reward at the end of it, nothing, not even like a thank you for wasting 2 years of your existence doing this shit. It happens in so many different industries that, you know, picking 3 examples, you need way more than that to say it's a huge systemic issue that needs to be completely addressed. And I'm not saying it isn't a huge systemic issue, because it probably is. I don't work in the industry, so I can't comment on that, but I work in other industries where exactly the same issues happen.
Of course. But
I would say if I'm going to, you know, present my case forward, I would give a shit ton of examples as to why it's happening, as opposed to picking a small handful. And I get that, you know, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. It's a book, etc. But it's a topic that I think needs a lot of backing to discuss broadly in the industry, not just a few samples within that. But again, I haven't read it. I'm just going through what you're saying. So
yeah, but I mean, look, like there's a couple of things that I'll pick up on there for what you're saying, Mike. So yeah, I totally agree. I think when you start going down anecdotal routes to argue system problems, like that's so dangerous because you got to look at these things at a very macro level. You can always pick out anecdotes either side to say why it's great, which it's not, and why it's terrible, which it's not. You know, it's mixed. It's mixed results, right? There's plenty of examples of studios that treat their people well, plenty of examples that they don't treat their people well. And I think, for me, I think that's just where the book fails as an idea, for me personally, that instead of, you know, living a little bit less politically from a, you know, central thesis perspective and just, you know, trying to bring out a balanced view, it does feel very much like trying to support its argument that the industry is broken in at least the States. And again, it's a very Western view, right? Like I found it fascinating that, you know, he never touches on, you know, any Japanese studios, you know, where they actually do have the same people. You can go on like Moby Games, which is like the IMDb for video games, and you'll see like people stay at studios for long periods of time in Japan. And he never explores like, why is it different in Japan versus America? or why is America very similar to European companies? And there's a lot of unionization in European countries. So why is it not happening there? And it just, like I said, it at times, and I really dislike that about like Schreier's reporting, that, you know, it does very much sometimes, and people are going to get offended at what I'm about to say, but it feels very like university political discussion where it's just so naive, so detached from the real world. You know, people are like, oh, communism's the greatest. And then you go, well, okay, show me an example of where it worked. It's been in many countries, right? And people can't point to one, right? And then they criticize capitalism whilst wearing Nike shoes. Like it feels very naive at times. And it's a shame because this guy, and, you know, Mike saying like I'm the number one fan club, you know, I think his writing's amazing and his insights and his ability to, you know, get stories on the record from people is just incredible. Like some of the stuff in the book, like it's fascinating because it's, you know, we're talking about a year ago, some of the stories, you know, when they're talking about Google Stadia and kind of the execs, whilst being really nice people, just having no idea about games. I mean, that's probably no shock of a revelation. Whereas Microsoft, you know, was really great to deal with as according to the folks behind Drake's Hollow. But yeah, like I said, I just wish that he didn't go into that political side as much, because I feel like it would have just been such a better book. And I think he would have allowed more space for the reader to make their own mind up. Whereas it just feels like so heavy-handed at times of like AAA bad, you know, CEO bad. Why is he getting that much money? You know, why aren't the workers getting paid millions of dollars? Or why aren't the workers in charge of their schedules? And yet in his own book, he talks about studios that basically can do whatever they want and they can't make games. So it's kind of like, he just feels like he argues against himself unbeknownst to himself at times. It's just, I don't know. And you can even see with the writing at times, he even calls it out. Like, oh, it's almost like, well, you know, I've said this, but, you know, this is reason why it's not true. And I'm like, not sure if that really rings true to me. But parking all that, you know, yes, if you're interested in BioShock, you know, the Kurt Schilling story, Irrational Games, Mythic, some of these huge studios, Visceral Games like the Dead Space trilogy, you'll get a lot out of the book. You just
I actually
have to wade through the politics. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about it.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna definitely pick it up.
So yeah, that's my review of Press Reset. I've been looking forward to this book for a long, long time. But I actually cancelled my physical order of it. I got a Kindle version of it and I was going to get the physical still, but I actually cancelled it because I don't think I'll ever reread it again. Whereas Blood, Sweat and Pixels, I'll definitely reread that book. That was a really cool book. All right, for our final segment. It's a cruel world after all. Swinny, Cruel World.
Yes.
Backstory. The devs reached out to us, called us out. Although they don't really think that they called us out, but calling us out, saying we haven't played this game. So we have gone as deep as we can on this game. And I think we have mixed views on it. So this is a game, again, that came out of a game jam, weird social experiments. I guess the thesis from the devs is that people are going to ruin this game. So you get into these like little points where you need to save or progress through the game, open doors, things like that.
And it's a platformer that's like that you can die really easily.
Yeah, it's a pretty brutal platformer.
Very brutal.
Very basic, but like almost like a very basic version of Super Meat Boy or something. That's not very accurate, but you know what I'm trying to say with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's these save points, and essentially, like, you know, it's a bit of a riff off blockchain and a criticism of blockchain. It's this idea of like you have to quote unquote hack the save point. Let's just simply say it, and you can then permanently put your name down on the list, or you can just hack it in a playthrough and then save, and it will go away when you close the game.
And that hacking, like in the form that I was playing at, could sometimes take up to 5 minutes.
Yes.
Sometimes more. Sometimes less. You know.
But very much the way I was playing this game, it's like, get up to a point where I can save or do something like that or read something. Okay, I'll hack that. And then I just put the game to the side and start doing other stuff. Oh, it's finished. Okay, I'll go back to the game. So, you know, and that's part of the, like, this is an art game, let's be real. And that's point of the art, right? Like they're kind of making a bit of a criticism, I think, of people and blockchain and selfishness of people. And, you know, selfishly, Mike and I put our names down permanently on some of the nodes. I kind of did it as a bit of a joke. I don't know if you kept doing it.
I did
Mike,
it just to see what happens, to be honest. I just wanted
So the
to
question I
explore
had is, I know you guys did it for the first node at least, because I could see Integot's name pop
Yeah.
up, and that's in the thumbnail, by the way, so we can see that. But Mike, did you do it for everything?
No, I did it. I think I did it for one. Wasn't maybe two. I just wanted to see what it is. To be honest, I wanted to experience the game and figure out what hacking was and figure out what it meant to mine the node and make it yours and stuff like that and have your name come up. I kind of just wanted to explore the game world in that sense. I didn't do it to be a dick or anything. I just did it just to see one of the mechanics of the game.
And you've subsequently made it harder for everyone now.
I know. I apologize to anyone who's still playing the game.
Too bad.
I did, but I'm
That
sorry.
was part of the game.
Part of the game. I needed to figure out what the game was all about, and that was part of the game. I had to see it for myself.
And just for me, Swinny. So like, and if anyone wants to see bad gameplay, the B-roll on the YouTube clip is actually of me playing. So and just before anyone says anything, I know I'm the Dean Takahashi of Bigwig Incorporated, so that's fine.
Sheesh,
I don't care. I don't care. It's fine. And every single time I typed in mine, and then I just deleted it. I never actually pressed enter. So there's no reason to do it unless I guess you want to come back a lot later and play the game. I guess, Winnie.
Yeah, that was the part I was trying to understand is because I found myself progressing really easily without making any of the terminals mine. So I was trying to understand, is it simply just to make your mark?
Yeah, 100%.
And also that
make it more difficult for others.
People that want to watch the world burn a bit.
Well, it means because when I go back into the game, I can go up to any point that I've mined and then just save instantly.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a selfishness thing. It's like a trade-off.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be selfish and benefit me, but then every single other person who plays it, it's going to be harder.
And there's specific parts that I got up to where... So there's a part where you have to hack 2 doors in a row.
Yes, I did this as well.
Then hack a monument. Then hack the 2 doors to get back out. So essentially 5 hacks in a row. And that's where I'm like, oh man, if I'd made those 2 doors mine, I assume they would have stayed open on the other side.
Yeah, they would have. Yeah.
So I didn't make any save terminals or info terminals.
Of course not.
Permanent. But I did for the crown monuments that I came across. Because I thought to myself, especially one of them, there's one on the roof. So you get up onto the top of the roof and then you've got to do some pretty tricky jumps. And at that point, I was still learning... I'll get into the mechanics in a second, but I was still learning, all the little tips and tricks of how the character works. And when I got up there, I'm like, you know what? I want to put my name on this monument. I don't think that stops anyone from progressing. I think it's more of just from what I could tell, just hey, you're putting your name on this thing because you got up here. But the info terminals is probably my favorite thing of this game. The idea behind them. So this game it plays nothing like it, but it's got the same feeling I had when I was playing Cave Story, where there's the world. There's these things you just don't know, and the way it kind of explains them to you, and it's kind of Fez-like in some ways as well, where you don't understand how the spikes work unless you figure out by accident until you read a terminal exactly. You don't understand some of the different mechanics, and there's like some of the jumping mechanics are really tricky to get used to, but they're kind of almost like hidden until you like figure out, oh wait, I can actually do this, or I can. How do I manage to jump 3 blocks high as opposed to 2 blocks high?
Can I just quickly go into that, Swinny? Because I never learnt how to double jump properly in this game.
Yeah.
So how do you double jump in this game? I don't understand the mechanic of it.
So I understood double jumping that you do like the spin jump when you're spinning, and then if you hit it at a certain arc, you'd get the double jump.
Oh, okay.
So that, yeah.
And you could do it consistently?
Look, I wouldn't say I hit it every time, but pretty consistently because
I couldn't
as you get further in. So I played it quite a bit. I got to what I assume are like the DLC areas, like the Sky Temple areas and that. And some of those jumps are really tough, where you 100% have to like be using double jumps. And I got to a screen where it was just it was pretty rough, and I said, "Look, I'm happy to put it down for now." And I'd experienced a lot of the game up until that point, so I don't. But I ended up going to the DLC, I think, before I finished what was probably the main part of it. So, and I couldn't figure out how to get back out. I can't remember exactly how you can get back to previous areas once if you load the game up again or something. But I just love the fact that the game is really simple, but it's got all these little hidden elements to it. And I actually had a blast playing this game. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the controls are for a game that you play for keyboard that it requires like pixel precision. I actually found it really, really fun to play. So
what did you think of it, Mike?
Yeah, like I think certain other people.
Well, as a contrast to what you just said, so I keep thinking back, and I've actually opened it up because I think it's worth reading again. The quote that came from the creator, which was that I was wrong about what people were willing to endure, accept, or even embrace. I have a more positive view of what people are capable of enduring now, but I don't know if that's a good thing. People can get used to and even find joy, beauty, and solace in just about anything. On one hand, this is admirable and quite beautiful, which is what you did, Swinny. But maybe it means as the end of the world draws nearer, instead of fighting to stop it, maybe everyone will just endure it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't enjoy the game. I went back to the real cruel world after sort of the third level, and I did real world things because as much as I absolutely command, and just reading the comments from the creator, this guy seems awesome. Like, I'd love to talk to him in person. I'd love to even have him on the podcast and stuff.
Yeah, we should. Yeah,
shit
on him, like, and then
really
let's get him on the podcast.
I am not shitting on him and his creation whatsoever. I think it's brilliant. I absolutely think it's brilliant. And just being able to create something as cool as this and to make it in such a short period of time is, to me, mind blowing. Like, it's amazing. I'm absolutely not shitting on it. All I'm saying is I am one of those people who do not endure stuff for the sake of just enduring stuff. And yeah, with me, it was the complete opposite experience, I think, to what you had, Swinny. I bailed out. I see the beauty in this and I see how amazing this thing is. But I went back to the real cruel world, I think, on this one.
Interesting. The question I have is, those early areas, I was almost shocked, surprised by how they weren't very punishing. Like,
I like how Swinny's always like
they weren't super bad. No,
humble brags.
No, this is not a humble brag. I was expecting the game to be more like I want to be the guy style, where you're gonna die all the time, and it's a very forgiving game. But this time,
Swinny, can I just say, Swinny is the guy who's like making NES games back in the 80s, and he's like, man, Battletoads is easy. What are people worried about?
No, let me finish my point. I'm saying that I was expecting the game to be much more punishing. It gets punishing later, but it's much fairer than I was expecting. It really was, and that's why I was surprised. I was expecting to kind of bounce off because I'll get to the point where, oh man, I'm going to have to, like, it's going to take ages to hack these. I'm dying all the time. And there's certain rooms where, you know, until you get the hang of it, you're going to die all the time. Like I talked about, this room called Consistency, which you have to be really consistent with the mechanic where you bounce up the single lane.
That's where I died. Like, I stopped playing.
Yeah.
I couldn't be consistent.
You have to do it like 3 to 4 times in a row. You can save at a point that's above, but you have to kind of like do a tricky jump to get up there. That's examples where, you know, like, it does take perseverance to get through, but like the Sky Temple area is like, that's to me what I was expecting, where it's like, okay, I'm dying all the time. And those first few areas, that's why I was surprised that you bounced off so quickly, Mike, because I didn't feel it was that way. And I guess if you bounce because you just weren't enjoying it, that's a different thing.
No, that's why. It wasn't necessarily a difficulty spike or anything. I think I just had too much stuff in the real world to do to persevere. And it's a really
cruel world.
The real cruel world, yeah. And it's a really fascinating thing, because the reality is, through that adversity is where you do get satisfaction from. And I think if you look at the game from that perspective, and it's the same as life in general, it's almost not so much that people just accept certain things. It's that when they overcome the adversity that comes from certain challenges in life, you get way more satisfaction than if you just coast through and it's easy and pointless, basically. So I think you experience a part of the game that I almost am jealous that I didn't get to experience. You know what I mean? Because I didn't get to go through those challenges and have that satisfaction at the end, knowing that I've completed that. It's one of those things that for the rest of my life, I will never know what it's like.
The funniest moment for me, and I did mention this, but I obviously didn't say what it was in our offline chat, was that, that consistency room, and I was getting through and it went through all these areas, and then it just spits you back out like where you came in. And I like, so it was like honestly for nothing, but it made me laugh that I just spent all this time doing something that just spits you back where you were. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty funny.
That's cruel. That's cruel is what that is. It's awesome.
For me, the biggest thing was like I couldn't get the mechanics down perfectly each time. So like the double jump was like pissing me off so much. You can even see in the footage, I was trying to do this double jump. I'm like, how do you do the double jump? Like I've done it a few times. I just couldn't nail it. And then weird shit like if you, Swinny, you can explain how this works, but if you hold down and then move to the right or the left and jump and move, you roll straight away.
Yeah, there's also weird things like there's certain I couldn't figure this part out. Sometimes when your character moves across, they kind of hop, and at certain times I'll hop a bit higher, that if you jump at the height of that, then you can go a bit higher. I couldn't get that stuff down pat. Sometimes I just had to kind of like almost brute force it. Like I got stuck in an area, one of the rooms has a little gap with, it's just a hole of 3 blocks basically, and
yeah. I got stuck there. You can even see the footage.
I can't get out of this bloody hole, and I got out of the hole, and then I bounced back in. I'm like, goddamn this bloody hole.
So the way I learned was that if you hold down and then press right or left, you start to roll straight away.
Yeah,
and that's how I bounced out of there. I was like, oh my god, is that there to teach you that? Like, there's a way to get out. And I don't know. It's a funny game. It's a funny game.
I did read most of the info journals, but there's probably some that I. The problem I had with the game was that I kind of got lost because I kind of hit some dead ends and figure out where to go, and ended up all the way back at the start. And you got to remember, I'm having to rehack every single door and everything each time I go through. So thankfully, I finally found the way forward, and I ended up in that DLC area, as I said, but I had like 3 keys on me, and I'm like, oh man, maybe I should have gone back to the other areas to see if I could, like, I guess, try to finish the main game, But it was. Look, I really, really enjoyed it. As I said, it kind of gave me that vibe of Cave Story. It's not like Cave Story is a much more complete experience, but that's the kind of vibe I got from it in terms of this is some indie kind of cool experience that one person's worked on.
In such a short period of time. Seriously blows my mind to get all of that done so quickly.
Well, I think they did some extra work after the game jam, but like the core idea.
It's nuts. Yeah.
So I just say thanks again to John Malloy, one of the devs on the game, for reaching out. Very, very cool. You. Very cool person. Like I was asking about Game Maker Studio versus Godot, which is what was used to make this game. Godot's very cool. Like if you want to make games, I'd probably check out Godot because it's free and it can make 2D and 3D games.
I think we should call out where people can actually get Cruel World. So it's on itch.io on Droqen's channel. So it's I think droqen.itch.io, and if you want to go straight to the Cruel World page, then /cruel-world.
Yeah, and you can actually check out Mike and I. We are mined into that game permanently, and so is Swinny. If you get up to, of course, Swinny has to be bold and get to a difficult pun in the game. Maybe Mike is the Dean Takahashi of the podcast, given that he gave up on level 3. No, it's going to fall flat, isn't it? We can't argue he's bad.
I'm trying to think if Mike knows who Dean Takahashi.
And I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. So the reference is, Mike, that there was a reporter for VentureBeat who was playing the Cuphead tutorial stage, where it's just showing you the mechanics of Cuphead, and he couldn't get through it.
Oh, wow.
And it was streamed or something, or it was like in his review or whatever, and people were just ripping. This is when this big topic about like how good at games do people need to be to review them, and do you need to finish games and everything. And just quickly, Jeff Grubb, who did a lot of the reporting around Starfield, his Twitter bio is, I'm friends with a guy who couldn't play the Cuphead level, which is one of the greatest Twitter bios. And I was like, the Dean Takahashi, I guess I have to wear that, given how good you guys are at games. Relatively, I'm bad. But yeah, Cruel World, very, very cool. Thanks to the devs again.
Very cool.
Check it out. It's I love art games. I'll just keep going on about that. And it's an art game, and it's cool. It's cool to that interactive mediums can create these kind of different experiences that you can't get from any other medium. So yeah, check it out. I think that'll be the last time we covered it. I think it's 3 times that we've covered this game now. So I think we're done. Unless Mike comes back later and completes the game.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll do a whole thesis on the philosophy behind the game.
All right, well, that wraps us up for this week in Big Week in Gaming. Next week, check us out, because we are checking our final Game of Summer of the Year 2011. The odyssey of all odysseys in terms of podcasting. I think it's almost been a year that we've been talking about Game of Summer of the Year. And this is our final nominee, Dark Souls.
Dark Souls.
And then 2 weeks after that. So check us out for episode 48. So like I said, it's almost been a year. Episode 48, where we will determine which game of 2011, we're only 10 years late, 2011 is going to be crowned the Big Week in Gaming Game of Some Other Year. We've even got a trophy.
Fists will fly.
And we haven't even figured out how we're choosing to pick the game.
I've said it before, but good old verbal violence is how we decide this.
And I should say quickly that we're keeping Game of Some Other Year. It's a great format, but we are changing the way it's going to work. So we are going to be a lot quicker in picking which Game of Some Other Year and then which are the 6 nominees. And then over Christmas, we would just cover them there. So we are getting a little bit more organized. Part of it is my fault as well. And because Portal 2 was obviously one of the 6 games that should have been Game of Some Other Year, but wasn't. And I played all the way through it, which I liked anyway. Anyway, that's it for us. Bye-bye.
Ciao.